be allowed to enter Tanzania and interfere in local affairs.
Lakini la pili, tumeanza kuona mtiririko au mwenendo wa wanaharakati ndani ya region yetu hii kuanza kuvamia na kuingilia mambo yetu huku. Sasa kama kwao wameshadhibitiwa, wasije kutuharibia huku. Tusitowe nafasi. Walishaharibu kwao, walishavuruga kwao. Nchi iliyobaki haijaharibika. Watu wako na usalama na amani na utulivu ni hapa kwetu. Kuna majaribio kadhaa. Niwaombe sana vyombo vya ulinzi na usalama kutoa nafasi kwa watovu wa adabu wa nchi nyingine kuja kutovuka hapa kwetu. Hapana.
Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission officers are still holding Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya over allegations of embezzling 1.4 billion county funds. Natembeya's lawyer Ndegwa Njeru stated that the governor was taken to the EACC headquarters in Nairobi for questioning but was denied access to his legal team. EACC confirmed that Natembeya is being investigated over alleged procurement irregularities, abuse of office and bribery tied to three major projects during the 2022, 2023 to 2024-2025 financial years. The projects include the rehabilitation of Kenyatta Stadium Phase 1A, the construction of county headquarters offices, and the building of Tom Mboya Hospital. The residents said they do not know why their leader is being pursued by EACC and DCI officers.
Mimi nataka kuhakikishia watu wa Trans Nzoia, yule ataguza mheshimiwa gavana Natembeya, sisi tunaenda kupambana na wewe. Kama ni mheshimiwa Rais Kasongo, Trans Nzoia sisi tumekuwa watu wa upinzani na hatuogopi kabisa.
And EACC officers were forced to flee for their safety under heavy police protection, who fired tear gas in the air to control the angry residents. Opposition leaders on their part have condemned Natembeya's arrest, saying that President Ruto is undermining leaders on the opposition side.
Proper charges have been brought before the lawyers have been told why our client has been brought here. You find EACC circulating on social media accusations, trying to create the perception that governor is corrupt, trying to create the perception that there's been looting in Trans Nzoia. That is totally unprofessional, and it's prejudicial to the case of Governor Natembeya.
If it quacks like a duck, swims like a duck, then it is a duck. This one is political persecution. It is not fight against corruption.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody is human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Traffic.
Brought to you by I&M Bank, on your side.
Alright, so look at what's happening with traffic this morning. The rains have come down, so that means everybody's going to slow down just a little bit, and the streets look like they might have quite some Tuesday. Alright, over the hump and then onto the highway. You see a build up now, very nice around past Rodgers to Baden. There is something getting into the city. So now all roads are clear, and we're going to do a stoplight this morning. We're going to find some cake on our
Traffic updates brought to you by I&M Bank, empowering you to achieve your dreams and secure your future with our financial solutions across Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and Mauritius. I&M Bank, on your side.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Imagine I'm here. Hey, good morning. Very, very, very good morning to you. And we're getting into 9 minutes after 6 o'clock, and it has rained proper. The heavens decided to open just this morning, and here we are getting into things properly. A very, very good morning to you. This is Tuesday. It's the 20th of May, and like a joke, there are just 11 days left in the month. I was going to say in the year, but we're still in the month, and getting into things proper. So, you know what? The Jesse Rodgers is here this morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Jesse?
It's a chilly morning, so I'm definitely having a little internal conflict with that, being nocturnal and all, but it's a pleasure to be here. It's a spicy morning.
It is.
Definitely.
It's been a minute since you sat in that seat.
Yes, yes.
But good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming. I think it's great for us to then be able to go through some of these issues together.
A lot is happening.
A lot is happening, and you, over the last couple of weeks, you've interviewed people who, you've had conversations with people who now are making the waves.
Yes, the Wamunyoro declarations and all. It's a good day to be alive in Kenya. It's a good time to be alive in Kenya. So much is happening, and if you're in tune with the country's democratic space and the political developments, you get to see firsthand in terms of how versatile, how murky the world of politics truly is. So let's take a look at what will be happening today. I understand one of those vocal critics of the government, the Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya, will be in the corridors of justice. He'll be in the dock today. Let's see what case the EACC will have set up for him. But there's so much conversation on what exactly is happening in terms of the optics. Is this political persecution? And I think that's the big question of the day.
One must ask, that's for sure. And that sets the stage for the Situation Room this morning. Ndu and Jesse with you today, and the issues continue. This is what we do every day, look into those issues that actually matter. So based on that, even with the rain, peek out from that duvet. We're going to be getting into a number of conversations this morning, and let me tell you what those will be. Sawa. Am I lost? I sometimes get lost, I'm telling you. Okay, there we go. We will have a number of conversations today. We're going to start off at 7 a.m. And FCPA John Lokoloi is the director of the ethics and lead. Okay, let me start again, because it's maybe even raining in my mouth. He's the Director of Ethics and Leadership at the EACC, the EACC being the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. This, I think, is apt because, of course, we saw all this hullabaloo yesterday at Integrity Centre, who was arrested, who went to bail, ask in terms of what was going on. George Natembe, again in the docks this morning, we're asking questions about enhancing the integrity of academic and professional qualifications in Kenya. Looking at certificates, how many of your leaders actually do have the certificates they tout to have, and how is that going to be handled and dealt with? That's a conversation that we will have with the director at 7 a.m. And then at 8 a.m., our friends at Standard Bank will be here. We're looking at commercial banking and how it drives innovation, resilience and growth across the region. Regional trade, regional business, big ticket items in terms of sometimes what we look at for development of the region. Renato D'Souza is the head of commercial banking at Standard Bank, and he joins us at 8 o'clock. We're going to round things off at 9 a.m. with architect Professor Alfred Omenya. You know him. We're going to be talking about whether we're heading in the right direction. He's had many a comment, many an analysis of the Kenyan situation and what really, where really we are headed. And so we round off our conversations with Dr. Omenya, Professor Omenya, at 9 a.m. So that's what we do today. Even though the rains are coming down and people keep asking one question that has been asked quite often: when did the rain start beating us? And so today we're living in that literal reality of when the rain began to beat us. This is the Situation Room, and we can already see you guys trickling into the room today. Let's do this, guys. As we do, you're coming into our live streams on YouTube, on Facebook, and on X, and soon to be joined by our audience on KTN. Now, even as we do that, we will also be looking into saying hi to you guys. I know that you're getting in, but let's look at what our proverb is for today. And I'm going to put you on the block, Jesse. So this week, our proverbs are coming from a Lusophone country of Mozambique. Lusophone are those folks who speak Portuguese. I think there are only three. There's Portuguese. There is Mozambique, there is Angola, and there is one of the Guineas, if I'm not wrong. I think there are only three on the continent that speak Portuguese, or that can be classified as Lusophone countries. Okay. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. So, the proverb for this morning: there is no elephant that complains about the weight of its tusks. I know.
All right. I assume the same rules apply. You're never wrong with your interpretation.
Why do you start on that premise? That somebody might actually say that you're wrong. Why do you assume that would be somebody was saying you're wrong? But okay, give it a stab.
Okay. I think in context, it simply points to there's this saying that goes, God doesn't put a challenge your way that you can't handle. So I draw similarities to it in terms of your challenges are best known to you. You have no idea what someone else is going through on a day-to-day basis, and it wouldn't be in your best position to judge. But according to that person, most people don't complain about their day-to-day burdens. They just face it head on and move on irregardless. If they get help along the way, well and good, but they won't complain about this and that. So I guess that's my little interpretation of it.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's it. You walk around with your burden. Nobody really knows. And you don't complain to anybody because you look at the elephant, right? And those huge teeth. And you're like, how do you? But it's going about its business.
I tell you.
It's not thinking about carrying them. It's part of the thing. Let's go. Yeah.
And that's why we frown upon poachers,
Exactly.
They're trying to take the elephant's burden, quote unquote,
away from it. And it never complained that it was a problem.
Definitely.
Indeed. I love it. So, I guess the Mozambicans are up to something, are onto something rather. And it'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about that particular proverb as we get into conversations this morning. Okay, so we can see that you guys are logging into the room this morning. Quick, fast. Come on, guys. Let's do this together. And we say hello and a very, very, very good morning to you. Good morning from Ombaso, says Robert Mbogo. You guys say hi to Jesse. Jesse's here. He's pushing the conversation with us this morning. So as you're logging into the room, or if you've already logged in, say hi to Jesse. Okay. Desmond Ortiz says, good morning, Spices. If UDA, aka Kenya Kwanza, are sure 100% that they will run in 2027, why is Rigiji a threat to them? C'est la question, no? It's a good question. And he's telling me that I should make sure that Ednah receives his greetings. Ednah, please take me off bus. She has even waved at you, and people have seen her waving. So they're my witnesses. It's good. Chamgay, my beautiful people from the beautiful city of Nairobi, and Gore, beautiful lady, good morning to you. Don Sabwa says, TZ president was, she deports Hakuna Mchezo. Good morning. She did have some choice things to say. Now, although she did not name any names, she was at an event yesterday where she said some interesting things. We'll look into that story as we look into the headlines today. So, Don Sabwa, we see you. Good morning. Good morning, SpiceFM. Listening from the Emirates. Which one specifically? Most people sleep, but they don't really rest because their minds are busy processing how to survive the next day. Wallahi, that was me yesterday. I was sleeping. I was like in RAM. It's not RAM, a random active active memory.
A random access memory.
Access,
yes.
Exact, that one. And then there's another one.
ROM. Yeah.
I was in between those and I was thinking,
okay, memory. Yeah.
And I was sleeping, but I was like, okay, so what's tomorrow going to look like? So I didn't really rest. That's true. A lot of us don't actually rest to unplug.
We sleep, but we don't rest.
Yes, it's true. It's true. Donald Omonge says, good morning. I hope CCCO watovu wa adabu. What is that?
Rule breakers. Watovu
wa
nidhamu.
Wa
adabu.
Me and Jesse, you see now, me and Jesse like this. We are the same thing. The way I don't understand. He also found someone. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, something along those lines, isn't it? And that's Mbaga Joshua. Good morning to you. Sorry, that's David Omonge. Good morning. Abere Bethwell is tuned in and says, good morning, Ndo it all. Tuned in from Kilifi County, one of my favorite counties, I must say. Why does it look like EACC is being used to settle political differences? We will ask them. They're coming this morning at 7. That's one of the questions that we will definitely ask. Bernardito says, good morning from Doha. Princess Ndu, good morning. Dennis Amaka not here this morning. Jesse is here though. This Kamata is a ploy to distract us while other things pass like the finance bill. I don't think that's entirely wrong, actually, if I were to look at it properly. Dennis Nambuki says, no better way to end my day than with the Situation Room. So you're going to bed tonight. You must be in the Western Hemisphere. Well, thank you for joining us in those last few minutes before you go to rest. Hisa Daniel says, good morning from the Pearl of Africa. And Vash Musanga is tuned in as well. He says, good morning, Spice family. Yesterday, I love Janet. Hope these men in government listen to her. I don't know what you're saying, but okay. Linus Gitonga says, good morning. Eugene Odhiambo is tuned in from and says, Janet Okoh from yesterday. Okay, got it. Yeah, I know. She was quite phenomenal. I mean, what she said, she spat some truths. So thank you. I apologize, Vesh. You're actually right. She did. Eugene Odhiambo says, good morning, Team Spice. This is the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice indeed. Listening in from Kikuyu, Heri Tujenge Kwetu, Gotea Wadao Studioni, Megotewa. Is that correct? Megotewa.
Tumegoteka.
Hey, gosh. Goteka, Goewa, Yote. Good morning, Team Spice, says Jose Mahinda. Dennis Dambuki also. Oh, you're turning from Birmingham. That's why you're just going to bed. All right. In Alabama. Nemian Movich says, good morning, Team Spice. Good morning to you. David Moirori is tuned in from Plainwell in Michigan. And Georgia Demo says, good morning, tuned in from Rongo. Soldier Boy says, good morning from Atlanta. I'm looking forward to an interesting day. I know Ryla must be disturbed that Salasia is gaining popularity. Well, somebody's disturbed about something. Interesting times how Kenya even terrorizes Tanzania. We grab those two countries. Baga Joshua says, Uhuru did the same to Ruto. The persecution led him to being voted in via sympathy votes. The politics are really shaping up in this country. It's going to be interesting to see what the next couple of days literally, has in store. Onganyi Malala says, good morning, tuned in. Let the conversation continue. Indeed, it must. Patrick Mutinda is tuned in and says, is your sound engineer protesting? Engineer protesteth much? I don't know. What's going on? Today is actually the 20th of May. It is. Of that one, I'm sure. It's 20/05/2025. It's good numbers today. 2005/2025. Baga Joshua, yes, we see you. Zach OK says, hello, Spice family. Tune in from the 10,000 Lake State. That is Michigan. Good morning to you. I hear there was participation in Transoia. Well, there was something, that's for sure. Eric War is tuned in this morning. Leo says, good morning. This state, your citizens fueled by our love for politicians won't end if what happened yesterday during Natembea's arrest spread across the nation. It was interesting that all this hullabaloo was going on the side of the country where Natembea was not.
Oh yeah, true.
He was in Nairobi. They went to arrest him in Transoia, Kitale area. They didn't find him. But all that hullabaloo, all that fracas happened over there, and he was in Nairobi. So was it uncalled for? Absolutely. Was it unnecessary? Yes, it was. Again, another story that we'll look into. Matthew, we see you. Good morning, says, good morning. Another day to watch the state of democracy dwindling to an all-time low. How did we get here? It's a very good question. OG Beeper says, good day, tuned in from Kitengela. It's cold and spicy. Is it that cold? I don't know. Anyway, Dennis Dianga says he's tuned in this morning. We love you all. Thank you so much. What weapon or secret does Riggy G have on Ruto? He's so daring. Look, guys, the man who interviewed Riggy G not once, not twice, is here with us today. So maybe he can let us into some of those intrigues, because you know when two men sit and have a tete-a-tete, more information comes out. No, Jesse?
Yeah.
Rahim Tula Omar is tuned in this morning. Agola says, good morning, Watu. Good to see Jesse. Karibu Sana. Wenzel Dashington, as opposed to Denzel Washington. We see you. Guten Morgen, team. Ali Ado is tuned in this morning and says, Nikolai from 001. Good morning to you. Good morning, team. Tuned in. Say hi to me, you say. Mark Mleti, good morning. We see you. Good morning, my good people. Princess Ndu, yes, everybody. Jesse, Dennis and Mark are not here. George Okoh, we see you. The more things change, the more they remain the same. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. Baga Joshua, we see you. Sarah Kilonzo, good morning to you. Bwangi Juma is also tuned in this morning and says, let the dead bury their own. Well, so they say. Atieno, we see you. Good morning from Arakilifi. Kilifi. That's how it's said on Google. Soldier Boy says you will go and wait for Prof. Amenya. Sawabasi. We'll see what's happening. Baga, we see you. Christina, no, CT did not leave us. He is coming back. Don't worry. Leave is good, guys. Leave is actually good. Clement, we see you. Good morning. Robinson, good morning. Yamo, good morning and God's favor, great people. Thank you so much. Wow. You guys have all come into the room like crazy. Faith Sunday, good morning. Daniel Charo, Relisa, good morning. Chantal, Jacoere, Kabave, Pan-African, good morning. My Take, good morning. Karibu Sana, Mwangi Wambogo and Robinson Kisero. Distant Langat says, this is Kenya. Indeed, it is. Good morning, everybody. Karibu Sana, and great to have you in the room today as we get into these conversations. I love it that we're always so live and that we're plugged into these conversations, whatever we're talking about, that we can keep these conversations front and center and make sure that we give our opinion. If you raised your voice at one point, whatever medium you used to do so, that you were part of a solution. And I think that's what we can do. And it's not just about politics. It's across society. It's around health. It's around education. It's around nation building. It's about societal issues that we need to speak about. And so that we have the opportunity to do this every day, and that you're involved in this is a gem. So, Karibu Sana, everybody. Okay, so let's look into the headlines. On the front page of The Standard, Kenya's bold newspaper. I'm almost afraid to say what that.
Are you whispering?
Maybe they won't hear me. Ruthless president is what the headline says. Prominent critics of President William Ruto's administration faced a turbulent day yesterday as state agencies appeared to close in. Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya was grilled by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, while Mumia's East MP Peter Salasya appeared in court just days after being attacked by unidentified assailants. Meanwhile, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua sensationally claimed that his life is in danger. All of these things happened on Monday. I'm telling you, a day in politics is like 1,000 years.
It's a lifetime.
I'm telling you, all of these things happened yesterday. We'll look into the details of that. And when you thought it was safe to get out of the water, High Court halts the vetting of Ruto IEBC picks. So you thought that an IEBC was coming in at the end of May, which is in 11 days. Court says, not so fast. Let's just have a quick chat first, and then we can see. Stadium still incomplete, 755 million shillings later. That one I must tell you, and I will tell you in a bit. Joe Biden, unfortunately, has been diagnosed with cancer. He did make a statement yesterday, shared some information with people, and I think it was just interesting to see how the American people rallied around him to say, look, you know what, even if we didn't agree with your policies as president, we are with you in all of this. Suluhu warns foreign activists as Kenyans deported from Tanzania. We saw a slew of Kenyans being deported. It started with Martha Karua and her crew on Sunday, continued to Willie Mutunga and his crew who were held. But then, interestingly enough, David Maraga was welcomed into the court and had a word with Tundu Lissu for a while. And it was not covered as much as I expected that it would be. David Maraga then had he was in the court, had a conversation with Tundu Lissu, and we could hear Tundu saying thank you to him, that Kenya was in support, and he apologized to Maraga on behalf of Tanzania for the state of affairs. And I thought that was quite something that he did, but nobody really covered that little bit. But he did.
We focused on the drama. But I think it was mentioned on the evening news bulletins. Because he equally went to X to criticize the Tanzanian government for its reception when it comes to Willie Mutunga and his crew, including Hussein Khalid from Vocal Africa. So I think we're more in tune with the drama, the razzmatazz and whatnot. But it's proper to note that the Emeritus Chief Justice Maraga made his way through.
He did. He did. A few more headlines and we can look into some of these stories in detail.
Sure.
Orobwa to lose Senate seat after expulsion from ruling party. The politics gets stronger and more powerful every day, I'm telling you. Vulnerable minors abused online. That's a sad story to have to come to grips with, but that is the reality of our day, of our days and our times. Democracy at risk as critics say state is out to suppress dissenting views. My goodness. Okay. Jesse, do you want to look at one story? Let's look at one story and then we can take a break and come back and look at some more.
Okay, we can perhaps save the big story of the day for after the break. Let's take a look at what's happening in the corridors of justice, because you just hint at what the High Court has decided. It decided to halt the vetting of Ruto's 7 IEBC picks by Parliament. And this is due to a petition by 2 voters who say selection process lacked transparency, participation and violated constitutional provisions. But according to the Attorney General, who opposed the interim orders, they called the petition premature and constitutionally weak. So it's legal jargons for the learned minds in the room. Kindly feel free to indulge in this story. It's on page 10 of the Standard, and take a look at how litigious the Kenyan people are when it comes to exercising their right to go to court and litigate and whatnot. But Nancy Gidonga says the High Court has issued conservatory orders blocking the National Assembly from the vetting process. Justice Lawrence Mugambi barred Parliament from proceeding with the vetting of the 7 nominees, including the chairperson nominee Erastus Edung Ethekon. We have one of the lawyers involved quoted there saying, "We are raising the issue of the 5th Commissioner Hassan Noor, who is not shortlisted in the initial process. He was not in the advertising list made by the selection panel." And if what he's saying is true, it takes us back to that conversation that we had a little bit earlier on how it was 6 names that were sneaked into, allegedly, the IEBC vetting process. And it definitely cast a dark shadow on the integrity of that whole process.
Absolutely. This is the thing. That when you see, and it's all you need is a loophole. You just need a little bit of an opening into anything that can question the authenticity of the process. And that is enough for the court to say, which they've done now. Hang on, folks. Let's look into this thing again. And if we have a penchant for not obeying court orders, then things might get a little bit stickier. than what we currently see. But if the court has said, halt this thing for us to look at the process, all of those things you're saying are going to come into play. Were there 6 names? Were there not? Were they snuck in? Were they not? What was the final list? Was this name on the actual list? If it was not, we've seen court cases thrown out. We've seen elections where there was a winner called null and void over a procedural matter. So, what are we doing is the question. We have to ask. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of days with this. Because remember, we said so much is hinged on having an IEBC in place. And we are already at the end of May in just, 11 days. So what happens after that? Because after that, you have 1.5 years towards the election. 1.5, 2 years or so towards the election. So let's wait and see. All in stride, Tutona, as it said, because right now things definitely do look a little bit sticky. All right, taking a look then at what the heavens are going to look like, weather and traffic, and we'll come back and look at more of these stories in detail when we come back from this break at 27 minutes to 7.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Rainy conditions in Nairobi at 16, and it is cloudy for today with 16 conditions in Nyeri. Ellsworth is partly cloudy at 14, while Ombaso will be sunny at 25, and cloudy at 25 in Malindi. It's cloudy at 20 in Kisumu and at 18. It's clear at 12 in Johannesburg, while at 27. Which is at 24. In New York at 14.
Traffic.
Brought to you by I&M Bank. On your side.
All right, so where are we? On the Thika Superhighway, traffic is coming in hot and heavy all the way from Githurai. It's going to cross over towards Garden City and then through towards the Pangani underpass. So that's doing the thing already, and we're already seeing red, literally coming off of Survey. Kiambu Road is busy. Wayaki Way, not so much, not yet. It's free and clear on Gong Road, getting through towards the city. We're going to see a little bit of a hold up right around that junction area coming in from Naivasha Road. Some of that traffic will then spill over towards Riara, but I think we're fine other than that. Let's see what happens as we get closer into traffic hour, notwithstanding the little bit of traffic on Jogo Road. We'll talk SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the situation.
Traffic updates brought to you by I&M Bank, empowering you to achieve your dreams and secure your future with our financial solutions across Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and Mauritius. I&M Bank, on your side.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning. Still getting in those greetings from you guys this morning. Not ignoring you at all. So karibu sana. Mato Ndeti, good morning. Great seeing you this morning. Jackson Waweru, as well as other folks. You said you're going to lose your job because you're listening to the show. Listen, and then sleep a little bit and you go to work tomorrow. Sawa. All right. Let's look at this one that's taking the nation and essentially the region by storm. And if we look at progression, what happened last year, Martha Karua, then representing Kizza Besigye, who is actually still in remand, but that she led the pack, essentially had the only lawyer who then had the power to represent in the military court. Or rather the license to represent in the military court at that time. They then saw the case move from the military court now to the civilian court, but he's still on remand waiting for the next trial. That same idea is what essentially happened over the weekend, and she was actually going in as amicus curiae. and Jumia, part of the Jumia platform, under the East African Law Society. She was denied that entry with her crew. We then saw Willie Mutunga, who then came into the country, who went into the country yesterday morning with Khalid as well as Hanifa, but they were also deported. David Maraga, Chief Justice Emeritus, then was there, had a conversation with Tundu Lissu. There's a picture here of Lissu looking quite spirited, and he is still saying, and his t-shirt says it, this is the reason that the treason charges have been brought against Tundu Lissu, that he has said there should be no elections in Tanzania without electoral reforms. That is the basis for this entire case. All of this happening with now President Samia Suluhu saying, you know what, foreign activists, we don't want you playing around here. And Kenyans have been deported from Tanzania. So now we can see diplomatic tensions tightening between Kenya and Tanzania. We saw the deportation of quite a number of Kenyans yesterday over this same issue. Activist Boniface Mwangi arrested and held in Dar es Salaam, speaking outrage against the region. Then President Samia Suluhu, in an apparent reference to the deported Kenyans, said some foreign activists were meddling in Tanzania affairs. And I'm going to quote, "Let them not come and mess things here. We should not give them any chance. They have already messed up their country." And I think that is the clincher of this statement. The only country remaining that is peaceful is Tanzania. I ask the security agencies not to allow foreigners to come and misbehave in Tanzania. She said this during an event to launch a new foreign policy held at the Julius Nyerere International Convention Center. And if you want to know what position Tanzania is taking in all of this, all you need to do is listen to the words of President Samia Suluhu in that statement that she made. She has told you what she feels that Tanzania is doing is correct, check. Number two, in the region, in terms of peace and people who have their democracy right, is Tanzania. Number three, does she feel that other countries in the region are getting it right? No. Tanzania is the only one who is peaceful, and Kenya has already messed up its country. This is what she said. Nobody else, but it was her. Others who came and were deported from the country said that they came to stand in solidarity with Tundu Lissu, that one of the things that they were pushing for, human rights. Remember that Tundu Lissu is a survivor of quite a number of attacks. This man was shot 16 times. He had his recovery in
Belgium, was it?
He had his recovery in Nairobi, actually. He was treated in Nairobi and then went to Belgium on exile. And he normally says that he's always grateful to Kenya because he had transfusions here and he knows that there's Kenyan blood running in his veins, literally. And I think he said something to that effect yesterday as well when he met with Emeritus David Maraga. So if we are looking at the stuff that diplomatic tiffs are made of, this is it.
Classic example.
Absolutely.
But if you hear from the Tanzanian president, Samia Suluhu, her angling is this is an invasion of rogue activists. Is that the case? Well, the jury is out there. But at least it seems to be from her view. Just to quote her, because she spoke in Kiswahili, saying, kama kwao wamedhibitiwa, wasije kutuharibia huku kwetu.
That's it.
Simple. It's a stern warning to foreign activists not to interfere with Tanzanian internal affairs. Equally, did Tanzania flout the Jumuiya Agreement rules that allow free movement of people, especially citizens of the East Africa community within this corridor? Because having an 11-hour ordeal at the airport, being detained, having your travel documents taken, you're kept under tight security. You ask, I think, what one of the people who were detained mentioned, waliambiwa tu kuna changamoto kidogo, you know, they were trying to soothe it, but it was pretty clear that they were persona non grata in Tanzania. Return back to sender. That's their take on this whole issue. And it begs the question, are we frowned upon in the East African community in terms of the democratic space we enjoy as Kenyans. Human rights activism has its space. Of course, there are challenges here and there, but if you compare within the East African community, we might stand tall when it comes to these groups enjoying their rights.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think also, Jesse, we can't run away then from the regional, or do I want to say diplomatic jostling now that is happening. You know, everybody's looking for that shoulder space to then be or stick their neck out as the one where in the region they are standing tall. President Suluhu has said very clearly, it is in all of this, you guys have messed up outside there. We are the ones who are standing tall here. It was also interesting to note that there have been statements coming from the Kenya government and also some individuals who've said, you know what, whereas we do believe in regional integration and it is necessary on the Jumuiya platform that you spoke about for people to then enjoy freedom of movement, we also realize that Tanzania has a right to do whatever they want to do in their own space. So you can read as much as you want into that. And it also depends on which side of the political divide you stand in Kenya that allows you to make such statements. We can't run away from that either. Isaac Mora, who's the government spokesman, just in the last bit here said, it is true that Honorable Martha Karua traveled to Tanzania in solidarity with Tundu Lissu. As East Africans, people have the right to visit other countries. He added, while we may not know the specific reasons for the denial of entry in this case, it does not mean that the principles of the East African community or regional trade have been suspended. One incident does not halt our cooperation or economic engagement with Tanzania. That is true. But we can't run away from the fact that it has a huge stain on the shirt.
Yeah, we can't sweep it under the carpet.
No, we can't. It was still interesting to see our friend Tundu Lissu, however, in court yesterday, all smiles, and he seems to be resolute in his position.
Quite so.
All right, let's look at a couple other stories, shall we?
Let's go with a big story on the Standard. A ruthless president, That is the big headline of the day. Crackdown. Prominent critics of President William Ruto's administration faced a turbulent day yesterday as state agencies appeared to close in. Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya was grilled by EACC, while Mumias East MP Peter Salasya appeared in court just days after being attacked by unidentified assailants. Meanwhile, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua sensationally claimed that his life is in danger. Pages 4, 5 and 6 have all these stories in detail where they highlight how democracy is at risk, according to critics, as state is out to suppress dissenting views. That's the optics. On one end, we understand that the EACC seems to have a couple of serious charges fronted, ranging from procurement irregularities, conflict of interest to unlawful acquisition of property. That's what George Natembeya might be facing today when he goes to the dock. And the figure in question is 1.4 billion, not a small figure.
Lovely.
Yes, used between 2022-2023 financial year and the 2024-2025 financial year. So that's what EACC is saying. This is why this guy is a person of interest. And of course, the prosecution will lay its case in the corridors of justice starting today, as we mentioned, when he's set to be arraigned. But you cannot fail to take a look at the optics. The dramatic arrest yesterday, as you mentioned earlier, Ndu. The governor was in Nairobi, but the EACC detectives early in the morning, talk about government efficiency, by 7 a.m. already at the homestead of the governor, his rural home. And key questions are emerging, not just in his case, but Salasya's predicament as well. Are state agencies being used to crush political dissent? That's one of the questions. Are these arrests motivated by politics? Because depending on which side of the political divide you support, those who might not be supporting opposition politics will say, hey, this is a classic case of mtu wetu mentality. You know, at the end of the day, political allegiance, where Kenyans don't see blemish on the leaders they support. So is it a case of weaponization of the criminal justice system to settle political scores, like witnessed in Kenya before? This is not the first time, and it seems we have institutional memory when it comes to frustrating those who prescribe to opposition politics, yeah?
And unfortunately, that when you see an arrest of this nature, regardless of who it is unfortunate that the level of mistrust is so high that you start to ask, what did he say politically? Or what did he do politically that would warrant an arrest? What did he do that many other people have not done that they have not been arrested for? Do you see that we don't trust to the point whereby it's very possible that something could have happened for which this action was warranted? But we're already tying in our minds and what we see with the whole slew of people who went to Integrity Center yesterday, that the allusion is that, no, he's said Tawe for a couple of months. He has spoken in a certain way. And is this a witch hunt? The words were already used yesterday. And what I'm saying is that gone are the days when an arrest of this nature would happen and we would say, actually, you know what? Let them go ahead and do the investigation. It's possible that something happened. We don't think like that anymore. No, we don't. We immediately say, okay, what has he done? We start to research and look into the news. What did he say recently? Did he piss somebody off? And then was the order given because of that?
Can we clearly distinguish between the fight against corruption and political persecution? It seems that a section of Kenyans can't tell which is which.
And it is very clear from the happenings that we saw in Trans Nzoia yesterday. You nick somebody, and the thing blows up. And then the man was not even in Trans Nzoia, he was in Nairobi.
Yeah.
So all of that, all of those armed officers who went to his home, I wonder, were they going to pick him up? Or was there a battalion that they were going to arrest at the same time? Did they expect that he was going to defy? What was that necessary? And then we saw this whole circus of drama that was unnecessary. But just like you're saying, the people who don't agree with that thing where you're saying that political arrests are happening to end the fight against corruption, they don't resonate with that. And that is why we saw the melee that we saw yesterday.
And it's unfortunate. We have to call out the hooliganism, for lack of a better word, because we shouldn't be... we're a democratic country. We shouldn't be angry to a point that we descend upon investigating officers and riot of police officers as well. It's quite unfortunate that vehicles were destroyed and some property was destroyed in that melee. But it's a stark reality of a two-tier justice system, because that's what Kenyans seem to think. One for allies and one for critics of government. Because if he begs a question, looking at what Gachagwa's predicament is, have inflammatory statements just been made by members of the opposition? No. They're members of government who have been quite vitriol when it comes to the mic, spewing hatred and animosity. Have we seen a difference in the handling of such cases by authorities depending on your political tune? That's one of the questions we have to answer. Is this selective justice? Are we fighting corruption in piecemeal?
That's it. Are we? And I think that's a brilliant question, because if we were, we would not see this nonsense that we see that took place yesterday. We wouldn't. But and that's the thing, the optics are so vital, so critical here, that if you're going to fight corruption, do it across board. Why in some cases do we see that, we've seen the ODPP drop cases for lack of evidence, but when you went to arrest them, one would assume that you had all this evidence in place so what happened between the arrest and then now when the case goes to court, that suddenly there's no evidence to be found? One would assume that going to Natembea's place yesterday, you have all this evidence. So I mean, it plays in the minds of people in a way that sounds that looks and sounds and feels like a duck.
Or they wanted to look for this evidence. Maybe they had the search orders, whatnot. That's why they had to raid. But the optics definitely bring in serious questions, because we don't want to vindicate Natembea. Of course, he's innocent until proven guilty. But when it comes to corruption, especially within the devolved units, Trans Nzoia County can't be the only county that is facing embezzlement of public funds. But this efficiency that we see when cracking down in Trans Nzoia should it be applied in, let's say, is it Uasin Gishu County, where there's a puzzle of a stadium that has gobbled up 755 million shillings, but it has no track. And remember, this money has been budgeted for since 2021. So various financial years, money is allocated to this particular project. I think it's a Eldoret 64 Stadium, which doesn't have a track. The process is still ongoing in terms of a building, but it's gobbled 755 million. And the Senate committee, the parliamentary committee rather, just couldn't comprehend where this 755 million has gone, you know? Anyway, that story is on page 46 of the Standard.
I wanted to share that story. I was looking for it, actually.
Yeah.
So let me tell you that story. Now, it's a puzzle.
Yes.
That 755 million shillings has been gobbled for a stadium, and there's no track. How, you wonder? Of what sorcery is this? Well, let me tell you. An iconic stadium in the heart of Eldoret. It's the City of Champions. It's gobbled up 755 million since 2021, but there's no running track. This is what the committee in Senate has learned. So the Public Accounts Committee of Senate said it was disheartened by the state of affairs at the 64 Stadium. It's being upgraded to a state-of-the-art sporting facility at a cost of 1.1 billion shillings and was set to be completed in 2022. All right, clearly that has not happened. The 64 Stadium hosted top-tier football league matches in the 1990s and was among training grounds fit for athletes. There's actually a picture of that stadium. I don't know how well you can see it or what that's supposed to be. That's supposed to be the running track there. It doesn't exist. It looks like maybe somebody's lawns had a bit of a tiff. The committee, which was led by Otieno Kadrang, as we know, said works at the stadium were dissatisfying. He reprimanded the county for failing to ensure that the sports infrastructure project was commensurate with the colossal amounts of money spent hitherto. 755 million shillings. 755 million shillings is a tenth of the education budget. Is a tenth of the education budget for one stadium, and it has not been completed in 2025. And they're saying there's no track to run on in a running stadium. I don't know what they were thinking they were doing, but it was supposed to be actually for this.
And you know what the icing on the cake is? In the next financial year, Uasin Gishu County said to allocate 100 million more
to this same stadium.
This same stadium for it to be completed, hopefully. So is this a classic case of a white elephant? You know what they say, a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside a quagmire? Classic example.
Classic example right here. Because surely if you spent the money to build the stadium and if you had built it, we'd see it. And I keep saying the money doesn't go missing. Somebody takes it.
Simple.
Very, very simple. So on one hand, when we talk about being able to find somebody who's been involved allegedly in corruption, the stark realities of other cases hitting us in the face, and how serious are we taking those? Yeah? All right, another story. Jesse, you have another one?
There's something touching on the education sector. I had seen it, and it's definitely a cause of concern for parents, learners as well, and stakeholders within that space. Schools in crisis as funding delays push education to edge of collapse. It's a story on page 12 of the Standard. Do make sure you grab yourself a copy, where stakeholders are decrying constant changes to curriculum and rushed policy implementations. We've had a couple of policy changes. Most recently, perhaps it's just the name, from CBC to CBE. So it's all about CBE right now. With capitation funds delayed and slashed, schools are struggling to stay afloat. It's been sort of 4 weeks since schools opened for this particular term, and the capitation money is yet to be disbursed. If you talk to the education ministers and officials, they will say, hey, it's a matter of wait and see. We're having a conversation with the Treasury. They're set to release the funds. You'll have those funds. I think this was the same tune during the last conversation around capitation delays and whatnot, and I think eventually they sent 8,000 Kenya shillings instead of 11,000 for each and every learner under the capitation funds. So it puts the head teachers at a precarious position, because at the end of the day, they have to make sure these institutions are running. That's why at times we see parents being bombarded with a couple of extra fees, free primary, free secondary education.
It's not free. But this thing is coming.
Yeah.
So from term 1, they still owe learners 7,000 bob. Okay?
Yeah.
And we're into the 4th week of term 2. And not a shilling has been sent in capitation, unless I'm wrong. But not a shilling has been sent in capitation for term 2, and we're already in 4 weeks. This is the 14-week term. It's the longest one. And we're getting into midterm in the next 3 weeks. And really, we're hearing crickets in terms of what's going to happen with it. There's too much going on for it to be ignored. Sadly, this is where we are, guys.
And the policy changes, do they bring confusion or solutions?
Yes. They bring, there's a lot of confusion happening right now, sadly. Just coming off of the conversation that we had yesterday, in terms of what's really happening with the education sector. You can't, what's that game that you make? It's got a Kiswahili term to it. You try your luck here and there.
Oh, patapotea.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. That's what we're doing with education right now. Try this, see if it works. If it doesn't work, move on to the next thing. Patapotea. And then and the lives of children are hanging in the balance, and I don't like it at all. But that's what it looks like.
Education should be the greatest equalizer.
Come on.
So this is not an ideal scenario.
Digital platforms such as TikTok, Facebook, WhatsApp, and YouTube have become predatory hunting ground for individuals targeting children with cognitive impairments, according to a newly released report commissioned by Zana Africa in collaboration with child rights organizations. First of all, there's got to be something very wrong with you when you prey on children who are already vulnerable due to cognitive impairments. Something very, very wrong with you. The report reveals a disturbing increase in the online sexual exploitation and abuse of children with intellectual disabilities, not in the world, in Kenya. These children, often lacking the capacity to recognize abuse or articulate their experiences, are reportedly being groomed, blackmailed, and exposed to explicit content at an alarming rate. With an estimated 2.5% of the Kenyan population living with intellectual disabilities, according to a national survey by the Ministry of Education and the Kenya Institute of Special Education, experts are raising the alarm about a growing crisis and a system that remains poorly equipped to respond. According to Josephine Kisilu, the Dean of Studies at KISE, which is for the special education, she said the country has witnessed an upsurge in such violations, and one must question why this is happening now. It is particularly concerning that the perpetrators, according to the research, span all social classes. It's not just you say poor or the bottom of the barrel. But like I said, when we get to the point where you're preying on folks who are already disadvantaged cognitively, we have questions to ask God in heaven about how he's going to do a reset on our value system, because things they are thickening, and if a reset doesn't happen, we're getting to the point where just things are getting worse than bad. Those are some of the stories we're looking into headlines this morning. This is The Situation Room. Ndu and Jesse with you this morning. And as we looked at some of those stories into details, we'll get into some conversations, and we'll get into that with the EACC in a short while. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Deputy President Kithure Kindiki has continued to insist that this is not the time to pursue politics but to serve Kenyans. Speaking when he met with coffee farmers in Deer area in Kirinyaga County, Kindiki has also called on leaders to stop politics, at least for now.
Na ile mambo inatuleta hapa sio mambo ya kampeni, kwa sababu saa hii hakuna uchaguzi unaendelea. Ile inatuleta hapa ni kuwaeleza wananchi mahali tumefikisha ajenda ya maendeleo ya nchi yetu tukufu, kwa sababu kazi ya serikali ni kusukumana na shida za wananchi, kuboresha maisha yao. Hiyo ndio inafanya serikali kuchaguliwa. Ndio unaona tuko very serious and very focused.
Kindiki has continued to defend the government, saying that it has put in place measures to ease the burden of the high cost of living for Kenyans.
Hiyo kushuka kwa unga ikakuwa na bei nafuu imepoesha kidogo makali ya gharama ya maisha, na tunajua bado tunakazana hiyo unga ishuke hata zaidi, ifike 100 shillings kwenda chini, ndio tuondoe aibu ya njaa. Kila familia iwe inaweza pata chakula, kwa sababu watu wengi, familia nyingi zinategemea mambo ya mahindi. Tumeboresha hiyo bei sio kwa sababu ya maandamano, tumeboresha kwa sababu ya kupunguza bei ya fertilizer.
President William Ruto is expected to officially hand over 1,800 houses to beneficiaries of Mukuru Affordable Housing Project in Embakasi today. The houses are built on 56 acres of land, the largest of its kind in the country, with a total of 13,000 housing units. Yesterday, government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura made the announcement, saying the area will be renamed Mukuru Estate instead of Mukuru Slums, as was previously the case. This is a significant step in the government's efforts to address housing problems and improve the lives of its citizens.
We shall have the affordable housing, the first time that we'll have keys that will be handed over by none other than His Excellency the President at Mukuru. It's now no longer Mukuru Slums, it's Mukuru Estate, you know? And you can see the people of Riara Village are very happy. 13,248 units are up. And 1,080 people will receive their keys already. Over 970 of those units have been verified and the ownership.
As world leaders gather for the 78th World Health Assembly in Geneva, the new Strikeout Snakebite initiative has unveiled a confronting ad installation to highlight the critical need for action against the daily threat of snakebite, which disproportionately and severely affects some of the world's most vulnerable communities. Snakebite is one of the world's deadliest yet most overlooked, neglected tropical disease, with one person dying every 5 minutes and many more suffering severe injuries and amputations that profoundly impact their lives and livelihoods. The public art series in Geneva's Pacmon aims to bring the urgency of the snakebite crisis to the international community's attention. And finally, in the international scene, Tundu Lissu, Tanzania's leading opposition figure, will remain in custody after the Kisitu Resident Magistrate Court postponed his hearing until June 2nd. Lissu, the outspoken leader of the opposition party Chadema, is facing treason charges alongside accusations of economic sabotage and incitement. Lissu, who has been in police custody since April 9th, appeared in court yesterday morning, greeted by a large contingent of supporters who chanted slogans demanding electoral reforms. That's the Newswire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
Traffic updates brought to you by I&M Bank.
Taking a look at what's happening on the roads this morning at a few minutes after 7 o'clock. Quite busy as you come in from the Thika Superhighway and getting through towards the Pangani Underpass. It's also busy on Jogo Road heading towards Landis. Kiambu Road also has quite some traffic today, and it's starting to build on Limuru Road coming in through Muthaiga. Wayaki Way busy as well, and we're looking at traffic starting to build as you come in from this part of Lower Kabete going towards Spring Valley. Very, very busy also coming off of Ngong Road through towards the city, and Langata Road is starting to pile up as well. That rain slows everybody down getting to certain parts this morning. Let's keep our wits about, and we'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Traffic updates brought to you by I&M Bank, empowering you to achieve your dreams and secure your future with our financial solutions across Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and Mauritius. I&M Bank, on your side.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Very good morning to you. It's 6 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It is Kenya's biggest conversation. And as we get into the second hour of this, Ndu and Jesse with you this morning, curating some of these conversations necessary for us to keep front and center. Welcome to those of you who continue to stream on our live on YouTube, Facebook, and on X, and to our audience on KTN joining us. Karibu Sana. We're getting into a conversation this hour, but even as we do, I'm going to remind you that if there's somebody you're looking for who will make sure they hold your hand through things, you can imagine how you can have a trusted partner regardless of what you do or where you go. Imagine having that person who stands by you through thick or thin. Imagine that person in the name or in the form of a bank. And that's the I&M Bank promise. We empower you with the tools and support to turn your aspirations into reality, whether it's a new business venture, whether it's your child's education or securing your future. I&M Bank is here for you with flexible financial solutions, personalized guidance. We're on your side, championing your progress and celebrating who it is that you are with your successes. So don't just bank, build your future with a partner who believes in you. You can also experience the power of on your side banking. Find out more information at any I&M Bank branch that is close to you. And that forms the basis for us to get into things this morning as we have a conversation with our friends from the EACC. Joining us in the studio this morning is FCPA John Lolkoloi, who is the Director Ethics and Leadership at the EACC. Good morning.
Good morning, Do.
How are you doing?
Doing fine.
Karibu Sana.
Thank you.
You rose from a storm that came, and many things are happening at the EACC. And when we're looking today at enhancing the integrity of academic professional qualifications in Kenya, there are questions that have arisen, especially around election time. How does the EACC guarantee that folks who tell us that they have a master's and 2 doctorates, that they actually have them and went to schools? But beyond that, the integrity question that lies beneath, how are we actually ensuring that? And so those are some of the conversations that we will have this morning. But even as we get into things, Okoloi, we normally would welcome you to the studio or to the show today with a proverb. We go around the African continent every week, and this week we've landed in Mozambique. And we would like to get your interpretation of this proverb, right? And it goes like this. There is no elephant that complains about the weight of its tusks.
There's no elephant that complains about the weight of its tusks. My interpretation of that is that, of course, from the literal meaning, we know that the elephant is big, has a big tusk. But when you look at the literal meaning, the inside meaning, it means that whatever situations, whatever challenges, people go through challenges, they go through obstacles, and sometimes because of resilience that they build, they are able to withstand and they are able to walk around them without showing any complaint or showing any bitterness. Yeah, so it's about resilience. It's about adapting to the challenges that you have. Yeah.
Indeed, I love it. So even if somebody sees it could be very heavy, you know how you're, navigating through this life.
Yes,
indeed. As we jump into conversations this hour, yesterday morning we woke up in the morning, and soon after that we heard a fracas that was taking place to the west of us. And then after that, we saw that the Trans Nzoia governor had been arrested, but these were on orders by the EACC. And many questions arose in terms of what happened. Is this an active investigation? And upon what grounds then was he being sought? Because the melee that took place as a result of that order of arrest then was unfortunate. However, we just wanted to get some insights in terms of what happens when we're chasing this integrity question and indeed the fight against corruption.
Thank you, Ndu. So on the issue of Trans Nzoia governor, this was an ordinary investigation that the commission was undertaking. And I want to state that EACC is an independent commission. We do our work in accordance with the law and pursuant to complaints that we receive as a commission, and those are that is the mandate that has been given to us. So these were investigations that were ongoing. There were allegations of procurement irregularities, conflict of interest, and pursuant to its mandate, the commission undertook that search operation in Kitale and in Nairobi. And I want to state that as EACC, we follow the law, because before we even conduct a search on anybody's residence or offices, we obtain a warrant from the court. So we have to go before a magistrate and present a case that we are conducting an official investigation, and we need to get evidence from certain sources, and it's on the basis of that satisfying the magistrate that we get the orders. So let me at the onset condemn what happened in Trans Nzoia in Kitale. Our officers were attacked. The vehicles were damaged, commissioned vehicles, which are basically government vehicles, that is malicious damage to property. And this is even with the officers having shown that they had warrants to conduct this search. So we want to appeal to all Kenyans, including the leaders. Let us be subject to the law. Let us rein on our supporters, because we do not want to live in a country of lawlessness. EACC has been constituted to conduct such work, and we were doing it pursuant to our mandate. And therefore, even for the young people or whoever was mobilized to go and attack the officers and vandalize the vehicles, of course they will face the law, but we want to urge them to resist. And we also want to ask the leaders to be responsible and to be subject to the law.
How does the EACC arrive at a case that will then be followed up in the manner that we saw yesterday? You talk about, allegations made, collecting of evidence, and people coming out to say, there may be 1, 2, 3 discrepancies. How then does the EACC say, okay, this is one that we will actually follow? There is a large or significant enough bundle of evidence that we can now employ? How?
Thank you. That's a very, very good question, and it will actually inform the general public that the investigations done by EACC are documents-based. So we get an allegation, like I've mentioned, about procurement irregularities and conflict of interest. So what we do is we collect the documents, we analyze those documents, we interview people, record their statements, and be able to arrive at findings. And it's good for Kenyans to know, even as they try to probably imply that EACC is being used. EACC is not the final organization in investigations. We collect that investigation, the documents, we analyze them, make our reports, and forward them to DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions, who conducts an independent review to find out whether there is sufficient evidence to support the recommendations that have been made, whether to charge or not. And it's even after that the case will go to court, to an impartial court that will also interrogate that evidence, listen to the witnesses. So this is a very, very methodical process. It is very analytical, and it's not one organization. It's just that we are at the start. Yes.
Okay. Is it when you go for an arrest, in this case, so it's not just an arrest, but there's also investigations, collection of such evidence,
yes,
that the EACC may have been made aware that there is something to be collected within premises?
Yes.
Is it necessary to then be accompanied by the heavily armed security personnel that we saw in Kitale yesterday? Is it necessary?
Yes, it is necessary.
Why?
You can imagine what would have happened. Of course, you see still something bad happened because our officers were attacked, the vehicles were vandalized. You can imagine if they had just gone alone what could have happened. So basically, when we have those security accompany the officers, it's just for purposes of ensuring their security. It's not to intimidate anybody, but it's just to ensure that that operation is done in a secure manner. It has been done before, and what we are seeing is just leaders trying to incite their followers. They do not want to be held accountable. You do not prove your innocence by mobilizing people to come and attack officers and vandalize government vehicles. What you do is you wait for investigations to be completed, wait for the recommendations, and if their recommendations have been made to charge you, you can go and prove your innocence in court.
Okay, just briefly, because I know this is a matter that will go before the corridors of justice and sub judice will apply and all that. But my question would be based on the optics, because with such a politically heated arrest or summon, we have to bear in mind the pros and cons that might come with such a move. Of course, your duty is to investigate and to, do that part. But what's the modus operandi when it comes to such high-profile cases? Because at times we see some politicians are summoned to appear at EACC. So was this particular governor summoned or arrested?
So this governor was actually arrested, and there was a search. There was a search that was done at his residence, and sometimes it's on a case-by-case basis. We do our analysis, and I can tell you for sure, I have been in this field for over 20 years, and when we do our assessments, there are people that when you call them, they can come. Then there are others that do not come. So on a case-to-case basis, we assess the situation. And then in this particular case for the searches...
Had you called this governor?
He hadn't been called. He hadn't been called, but warrants were obtained to search his residence because it was necessary to secure evidence that was in his residence. But because you've also mentioned the issue about politics, for us the issue of politics does not arise, because if you look at the law that we enforce, there is no provision that talks about politics. It just talks about an offense. Like for example, it would say if you willfully fail to follow procurement regulations, or if you fraudulently acquire public property. And you see, these complaints are also coming from the citizens. So it's our duty. That is what we have been constituted to do, that we have to pursue them to their logical conclusions. Yes.
Because of the fact that the principle matters here, whether we are talking about certification, which we'll go into in just a little bit, or whether we are talking about the process under which some of these things happen, it's important for us to then open it up a little bit, because you get an example like this, and then it allows people to understand the process. Normally we attack things that we don't understand, or for which they are not very clear. And that's why we ask some of these questions, because some of those things do not appear clear. And so we will apply aggression when we do not understand. Now, the EACC being a public, although independent commission, does a lot of its activities in the glare of public eye and attention, such as what we saw happened yesterday. However, there have been also a number of cases whereby, because of later on in the case lack of evidence, some of these have been pulled. And sadly, the optics play a major role here. That how it looks, how it is perceived, then plays very heavily on how it will be accepted or rejected. Now, when we see something like this play out, and we talk about the fact that certain political statements were made previously, and then we see this manner of engagement that took place yesterday, how do we separate the EACC and its mandate to fulfill a certain role from the politics? Now, note, I'm not saying that the two are connected. I'm asking, how do we separate it with the perception that is hitting us in the face?
So one, for us, what we noticed, this could just have been a coincidence that certain statements were made, and this investigation did not start immediately. Those statements were made.
They were on before. Were they ongoing?
They were ongoing.
Okay.
Now, the way we can separate these issues is that we are guided by professionalism and integrity in the course of our work, because we know for sure that the evidence we collect has to go to another agency, the Director of Public Prosecutions, who are not part of EACC. They are also an independent body who will look at that evidence, and if, for example, they find that there is no sufficient evidence to warrant any further action, they will return the file, as they do in some cases, probably where they think it is not sufficient. So for us, we follow the professionalism and integrity, knowing that there are also other checks and balances, and we have a commission that is, staffed with professionals of high caliber, competence, lawyers, accountants, valuers, and therefore, and we also have an oversight body in the commission. We have the commissioners, we have the top management, who will have to look at that evidence which has been collected, and therefore we are bound by professionalism and competence and the duty to serve. Yeah, because we, at the end of the day, all that we do will be subjected to public scrutiny in terms of evidence.
So is that process efficient from your point of view as we conclude on this matter? Because EACC has been advocating for prosecutorial powers for quite some time now, because you're aiming to streamline the fight against corruption and improve efficiency. So as things stand, in light of what Ndu mentioned in terms of some of these high-profile cases collapsing in court due to perhaps weak prosecution and whatnot, is it efficient as things stand?
It's efficient, but there is room for improvement, and I agree with you that there are instances that EACC has been advocating for prosecution powers or some delegated prosecution powers, so that we could take some cases, DPP take some cases, and the understanding has been if we were to take some of the cases that we have investigated, DPP having given evidence, then there is likely to be more efficiency, because these cases will be prosecuted by people who have also investigated them and have understood them, and therefore it has been an issue of delegated prosecutorial powers, so that we improve service delivery for Kenyans overall.
Okay.
Yes.
This is a public question. It comes from members of the public, and it's wrapped up in different colors every day, but it's the same question. That would we see arrests or investigations done for those who are aligned to or are in the government of the day?
So for us, and it's very, very important that I make it clear, that the basis of our investigations are not whether you are aligned to government or not. The basis of our investigations are on the basis is on the reports that have been received, investigations that have been conducted, and what those investigations have established, that there is a case to warrant those cases being taken to the next phase.
So there is no shyness when it comes. There is no apprehension when it comes that there would be allegations, number one, like you've made admission to. If there are allegations from the public, if there is enough in terms of evidence collected based on those allegations that were made, and it happens to be somebody who is in government today, the EACC today would have no apprehension whatsoever bringing a case against somebody who is, let's just say it, on the right side of the current administration.
We will not have any apprehension at all, and in fact, some of those complaints, we get them from the members of the public. So for us, our duty is to look at the complaints that have been brought up, conduct thorough and professional investigations, analyze, and forward them to the next course of action. So there should be no apprehension at all. We look at evidence, not those perceptions that so and so is affiliated to this faction or this other. Yes.
Are there other? I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't be able to give us the merits of the issues under investigation, which is fine. But are there other notable key individuals who may be under your eye at the moment who are being investigated in the position of governor, for example?
Yes, there are ongoing investigations on several counties. Analysis is being done, and whoever, whether it's a governor, whether it's a CEC who is involved, facts are there, they will be forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions.
Okay.
Yes.
As we look into leadership and ethics, those are some of the things, I mean, it's front and center of the examples that we see coming out yesterday. One of the matters that rose during the last election, and this was during the election, not after the vote was made, during the during campaign season was certification by those who put themselves up for public office. And the questions of whether you went to University XYZ, whether you bought your certificate, whether you actually finished a course, whether your shadow darkened the walls of any lecture hall in any university, and then putting yourself up for leadership has come into question. How does the EACC deal with these matters? And let's do an overview of that.
Thank you. The issue of falsification of academic and professional certificates has grown. It's rampant. And I want to state at the onset that tomorrow, 21st, we have an ethics and integrity conference where we have called various stakeholders to come and discuss this issue. Just to go a bit back, in 2022, the Public Service Commission instructed all public agencies to authenticate certificates of their employees. And in that first batch of authentication, about 2,000 persons were identified to have fake academic and professional certificates. So what we have done as EACC, we have conducted investigations into those allegations, because it is an offense to forge academic or professional certificates under the Penal Code. It is also an offense under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act to forge and to use those certificates for employment. We have several cases in court. DCI are also handling some other cases. So in addition to investigation and arraigning suspects in court, we are also pursuing the amounts that they have earned as a result of those certificates, the use of those certificates. And the courts have made, clear judgment that employment obtained as a result of forged academic certificate is fraudulent, and all amounts that you've earned from the time you are employed until separation are recoverable. So we have conducted investigation recoveries. We have issued advisories to institutions to ensure they authenticate the certificates. And tomorrow's conference, we are bringing the conversation to the general public, to the stakeholders, so that we can look at it. So it's not only the leaders, it is people across all sectors.
Okay. How long does it take? Because I imagine if Jesse and I went to same university, maybe along the line he would have seen me. I would have walked down a hall somewhere. He would have been somewhere else. We would have seen each other.
Yeah.
But beyond that, if I were to go to one of the universities that I attended today, this morning, and I needed a transcript, it wouldn't take me an hour. I'd have my transcript stamped, authenticated, and I would be done.
Yeah.
They know that I was there because there's a system.
Yeah.
They can look into the system. They can see the grades that I got.
Yeah.
They give me my transcript at the end of the day. Boom, we're done.
Yeah.
Why does it take so long from the EACC to figure out if Jesse went to Elephant Tusk University in Nairobi? Why does it take so long to confirm that?
So before we come to why it takes long for EACC to investigate, let us go to how these people are employed with fake academic certificates. And the issue has been organizations are not actually conducting any verification of the people they employ. So they advertise positions. People come with copies. They can even come with originals which are actually not authentic. And therefore, that is why you have so many people in public service, probably even in the private sector, with fake academic certificates. Now, let's come to EACC investigations. Investigation is a process that has to go through several methods, because when you conduct these investigations, you have a mind that this is a matter that will eventually land in court. So the issue of talking to the registrar and getting that transcript, for us, what you will have to do a letter to them give them copies that you want authenticated, and then you have to record statements, because those statements will have to, those people who will come and say we have looked at Ndu's certificates, genuine or not, will have to come and testify in court. So after writing to those institutions, recording the statements, coming to put up the file together, forwarding it to the DPP for review, and then now after he gives consent, then it goes to court. But I want to assure you and Kenyans that investigations into forged academic and professional certificates are not very complex. They actually don't take long. They are among the cases that we are completing within a very short time, except in situations where individuals may have studied abroad, in which case you have to go through the legal process, the mutual legal assistance, which you have no control.
Okay, let's assume that abroad is Uganda.
Yes.
Abroad is any country that is outside the geographical boundaries of Kenya.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And somebody says they went to university in Uganda.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. Again,
the process is the same. That let's say we put an official of the EACC on a flight.
Yes.
In 1 hour and 10 minutes, they will be in fact, in 45 to 1 hour, they will be in Entebbe.
Yes.
Let's say that this university is in Kampala.
Yeah.
From Entebbe to Kampala is a 40-minute drive.
Yes.
If there is no traffic, it is about 30 minutes.
Yes.
You are at the university.
Yes.
And you start to ask questions under the auspices that you have the legal requirements to do so as the EACC, having cleared all of that before. This information, you can actually get it in an hour.
We wish it was that simple.
And now my question is, why is it not?
Yes, and that's what I'm going to explain, that you cannot board a plane or a bus to go there. The process of investigation has to be done in accordance with the law. So when you are dealing with a foreign country, it doesn't matter whether it's Uganda or Tanzania, you have to generate what we call mutual legal assistance request, which has to go through the AG. It has to go to the AG of the other country. Then it goes to the other, what we call the competent authority, for them to give that evidence. So it has to go through the process. Otherwise, the evidence you will acquire by boarding a plane will be thrown out by the court, because they will say you did not follow the rule of evidence. You have to generate mutual legal assistance request. It goes through the processes. It goes through the processes in the other country. And once you get the evidence, it has also to come through the same processes.
Jesse is turning red. And that notwithstanding, we have to take a break, and then we'll allow Jesse to cool down, and then he has a question that he'll ask when we come from the break, because it's necessary that we do. We are looking into issues surrounding certification and its authentication by the EACC this morning with FCPA John Lolkoloi, who is the Director of Ethics and Leadership. We're going to take a break and look at weather and traffic and come back after that. While I remind you that in every dream that you pursue, every goal set, and every milestone achieved, there's a partner who stands with you. It's like somebody on your shoulder saying, you know what, you can go this way or you can't go this way. They are steadfast and they are unwavering. I&M Bank, the promise is simple. We are on your side. Whether you're launching a new business, seeking financial guidance, or striving for personal growth, we're here to support. I&M Bank says we'll empower you every step of the way. The commitment extends to innovative solutions to impacting lives, because at I&M, your aspirations fuel the mission. Discover the power of on your side banking. Visit any I&M Bank branch close to you and find out more. I&M Bank, on your side.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Save money on your rising electricity bill with StarTime Solar Home Solution. We offer a complete home and commercial energy saving system that includes solar panels with 15-year warranty, lithium battery with 10 years warranty, and an inverter with 5 years warranty. StarTime Solar Home Solution is efficient, reliable, and safe to power essential appliances, complete home lighting, refrigerators, air conditioners, washing machines, microwaves, iron box, instant shower, and entertainment devices, television, computers, Wi-Fi, and so much more. Say yes to reduced electricity bills and call us today on 0719 077 777 and get started on your green energy journey today. StarTime Solar. Power your life.
The weather with SpiceFM.
It is 17 and sprinkly conditions still in Nairobi, 14 and cloudy in Nakuru, with 16 and sunny in Nyeri. Eldoret is sunny at 14 and Mombasa sunny at 24. It's a cloudy morning looking into Malindi in some parts, and mostly cloudy at 20 in Kisumu, with sunny conditions at 17 in Kakamega. It's a cloudy morning in Kampala at 21, while Dar es Salaam is sunny at 24. Johannesburg is cloudy at 12, with sunny conditions at 28 in Mogadishu, and it's sunny at 17 into Addis Ababa. Clear at 27 in Lagos, with light rain now in Kinshasa at 24.
Traffic.
Brought to you by I&M Bank, on your side.
All right. Pretty busy. We're looking on the roads this morning, and because of that early morning rain that kind of slowed things down, we're seeing some heavy traffic on the Thika Superhighway coming in from Githurai out towards the Pangani Underpass. It's going to snake its way into the city. There is traffic on Langata Road coming in all the way from Uhuru Gardens, heavy through towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, and coming off of the Eastern Bypass, it is one for the books this morning, heavy through towards the Outer Ring Junction. Speaking of Outer Ring, in and outbound traffic is doing the business here. Kangunda Road, busy off the jump from Jiru out towards Outer Ring, and that will continue. We are in traffic hour officially. Let's talk and keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Traffic updates brought to you by
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Leadership at the EACC. FCPA John Lolkoloi is our guest this hour, and we're looking at enhancing the integrity of academic and professional qualifications in Kenya. Jesse.
Just looking at some statistics here, and they were released last year around February, where there was an audit by the Public Service Commission, and it found that more than 2,000 fake certificates were used to obtain employment from different institutions in the government. So it definitely brings into focus the challenges we're facing when it comes to academic qualifications that have been forged and are not above par. My question would be, what weaknesses are being exploited? What's the verification system as is right now? Because it seems to be flawed. Is there an online database verification for certificates issued by universities, by colleges, especially in the country?
Thank you, Jesse. That is a very, very important question. What has happened is that I think for quite some time, we were really concerned with protecting theft of public funds and other public property, but we were not looking at authenticity of academic and professional certificates. And it's possible that it's something that we never thought was happening, and therefore there are certain loopholes that the culprits have been exploiting. And one of them is that where institutions did not have any mechanisms to verify these certificates, they will just maybe rely on what was being submitted. The other loophole that people have been exploiting, I think the fact that there is a lot of unemployment, and this could basically, other than a loophole, maybe is one of the causes. A lot of unemployment has pushed people to try and use all means possible to get some competitive edge over others. And therefore, what they have been doing is to change the grades. Like, for example, if somebody had a C+ and they wanted to do a certain course that require B, what they will do is they will change those grades from C+ to B, and then they go and do the courses that they required. And therefore, certain universities also are not very keen to ensure that these application documents, what the candidate has presented, is genuine or not. And it's also the same with employment, that probably somebody wanted to get a certain job, but the qualification they have in terms of the degree will not allow them to get that employment. So they will just create their own documents with their own grades. And sadly, we have even had cases of people creating certificates for them to show that they are doctors. They get employed, they run clinics, some of them, going to become engineers, but they basically on dubious and forged academic certificates. So one of the other loophole has been, you rightly mentioned, there is no database, where even employers could check. Most of the institutions have not digitized their documents so that, you could do a quick check. If somebody said, for example, they have a degree in law or a diploma in law or they are an engineer, you can go to their website and see. So those are some of the loopholes that people have been exploiting because institutions have not been able to carry out those verifications. Of course, as we engage them, some of them are saying that verification is time consuming, it is costly. I know, for example, like Kenya National Examination Council charges for you to authenticate certain certificates, and you cannot fault them because that is also an area where they get their source of income.
Okay.
So there are issues of not having a database, documents are not digitized, and then institutions have not been keen. Yes.
Institutions have not been keen. I like that you ended on that. So let's take one example, one sector, right? Again, going to the elections that took place in 2022. And for any electoral position at a certain level, or if I'm wrong, all levels, need to get a certain clearance by the EACC, do they not? It is one of the things that you must get if you want to present yourself for public office. Now, the EACC, as you've told us, even from the first case that we have looked at, is that you act on allegations, right?
Yes.
Somebody can come and say, I suspect that this and this has not happened. It cannot just be Ndu rocking up to Integrity Center and saying, well, this person, and then you act on it.
No.
It would have been a consolidation or a collection of some of these. However, for these cases, if there are allegations or if it is not clear that one person who is running for, I don't know, governor of one county or member of parliament, and that there is a suspicion that their documents are not authentic or that they actually did not go to a university, these individuals are serving in those positions today, cleared by the EACC, and those allegations or those suspicions were present even at the time where they were campaigning for office. They won election, they are serving in those positions, and those allegations were there before, but they were cleared by the EACC. Please explain how that would happen.
So let me explain the clearance process by EACC. And to start with, it's good to appreciate that the law is there both to punish as well as to protect.
Yes.
So when we get those reports as EACC, we have adopted a policy to abide by the law. And the clearances that we give are actually giving information that is within our custody to respective institutions that employ or to the electoral body. And you do recall that in the last general election, we gave names of 241 individuals. We flagged them. Some were, we used three categories. One is that there is an ongoing investigation. It is at an advanced stage and you are adversely mentioned.
Yes.
We will have to cite you. The next is you have been charged in court. The case is ongoing. We will cite you.
But we don't stop you from running an election.
That's why I'm heading to.
Okay, let's go.
Then the third one is you have gone through the court process. You have been convicted, but you have appealed the conviction. So the categories we gave were those 241.
Okay.
Now, EACC has no power to bar anybody from running for elections. That is the work of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. So we told them, these 241, and we categorized them that this one is adversely mentioned, this one is facing a criminal case, this one was convicted but appealed the conviction, so for all intent and purposes is still in court. But IEBC, because again of the provisions of the Constitution, if you look at Article 99 of the Constitution and Article 193, which is one of the undoing in promoting ethics and integrity in this country, it says that once you have violated Chapter 6, you can be barred from running. But down there it says, unless you have exhausted all the appeal procedures. And therefore, that is where there is the problem. And that is what IEBC has been saying, that for us, these people have not exhausted the appeal procedures, and therefore will be in contravention of the Constitution if we bar them. They are likely to go through lawsuits. But again, as we move now to the next side of the equation, which is where we have been pushing the narrative, we have made that list public. We also expect Kenyans that this person who is coming to you to vie for an MCA or a parliamentary position has been cited by EACC as a criminal case. Will you, for God's sake, not consider not to elect this person? So unless we amend, probably that Article 99 and 193, those people, IEBC is also not able.
But the thing is,
yes,
I'm going to liken this to a buffet. You have presented the buffet in the open air.
Yes.
It has come from the kitchen.
Yes.
If there was something wrong with that dish, it should have been stopped at the kitchen. You cannot blame the people who come and serve from the buffet when you, the people in the kitchen, have allowed it to come through those doors and be served. So if we now tell the people of Kenya, well, don't vote for this person because they have a questionable character or they have done something questionable, you allowed them through the door. You ticked off and said that you may present yourself. It's already on the buffet. So people are serving what you have allowed to come through the kitchen doors.
You are right. If tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, this country gives EACC powers to bar candidates from running, express, we will do that. But unfortunately, the law only allows us to give information within our custody, pass it to the recruiting agency, pass it to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Do we see a proactive move by the EACC realizing that there's a bit of a throttling in the way in which you can do your job because of what the law says? People have been very rigorous and saying, you know what, we want to do this, but the law says we can't do this. And we have seen members of parliament, for example, putting up a bill that says, you know what, we need to expand the powers of the Auditor General.
Yes.
Because they can cite certain queries, but they can't do anything beyond citing the query. We need to expand their powers. Do we see proactivity on the part of the EACC to say, you know what, we see these things, but our hands are tied. Can we expand our powers?
In fact, EACC has not only been proactive, but also very, very innovative. We have generated proposals for legal reforms that have gone to the Attorney General, citing the weaknesses in the laws where we feel that we are hampered. You will know, for example, that we have been very active in making proposals for the conflict of interest bill. You will know that, for example, we have made contributions to the miscellaneous amendments, some I think which are currently before the Attorney General. So because the fight against corruption and unethical conduct is our core business, we do it on day-to-day basis. We keep on analyzing the challenges and coming up with proactive proposals to help address. And we do it through the Justice Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament, and then now it will still have to go to Parliament. But of course, you've also seen the back and forth in the conflict of interest bill. So I want to confirm to you that we are not only proactive, but very, very innovative.
Interesting. Let's talk about some of this deterrent measures that have been put in place, because at times when you look at the consequences, it might be enough to tell you, hey, this is a hot issue, I shouldn't be able to try even forge my certificates. So talk to us about how the courts have made jurisprudence on this particular matter, on falsification of documents, because at times consequences are enough of a deterring factor. Prevention is better than cure, as they say. Equally, are there solutions that can be applied in the private sector as well? There's so much emphasis on the public sector, and I just quoted a report that highlighted the issues beleaguering the public sector. What about the private sector?
Yeah, so the private sector, EACC as currently constituted, except for issues of bribery, our main focus is on public officials as well as public property. But that does not stop us from working together with the private sector, because again, they are a very useful partner with government. So even for falsification of academic and professional certificates, of course, we would expect them that there are some of them when they recruit. first of all, they write to us to ask if certain candidates who have been shortlisted have been mentioned in any corruption or unethical practices, and we give them that information. But in terms of verification, we can give them the training, but we will also expect that as they recruit, they can also use their own initiatives to authenticate those certificates, because if somebody said they studied at University of Nairobi or Kenyatta University, like you had mentioned at the beginning, they just need to write and say, please tell us whether these documents are genuine or not. But maybe to the question that you started about the courts have made very, very useful jurisprudence, especially on this matter of academic certificates, which I mentioned at the beginning, that they have said that salaries earned as a result of use of forged academic certificates are amounts that are fraudulently acquired. Under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, Section 45(1), it says that a person is guilty if they fraudulently or unlawfully acquire public property. Salary is a public property. So the courts have said it does not matter. You may have worked for 10 years. You have rendered the service. But the courts are saying that employment was based on an illegality, and the courts cannot sanitize it, and therefore they have allowed us to recover those amounts. As we speak, we are in the process of instituting recoveries for about 480 million, just for the cases that we have so far handled.
Okay.
And the other big development, like I said, some of these cases are very easy. They are very straightforward. Most of the people we have charged in court are actually opting to plead guilty without even the case going to its logical conclusion. And they are saying, I want to plead guilty to these charges, and then I refund all the amount that I have or I had already earned. And towards that initiative, we have already realized about 14 million. Just people saying, I want to plead guilty and return the money. So for the ones that have not, we will continue to, we will file those suits, and so far we are at about 480 million.
Has there been a case of, let's say I forged my academic papers, got employment, then thereafter I had a Damascus moment and decided to go back to school. I've already gotten the employment, but I decide to authenticate my forged academic papers.
Yes.
So in such a case, do they return all the money during their term of employment, or it simply applies to that particular point until when you got your papers sorted out?
Actually, you bring a very, very interesting scenario, because what we have had is people who forged, let's say, Form 4 certificates. They had a C plane, and then they forged it to B plane and went and did a degree course. Did it very well and passed. I can assure you that that degree which you took 4 years to do is also invalid, because it is based on a forged foundation.
Okay.
So that is the pain that most of them have had to go, because in the first place you did not qualify to do this course.
Okay.
So even the one that you did becomes invalid. Now let's talk about the ones who see a Damascus moment. One, even for the ones who are pleading guilty, it will take you 10 years, because the law says once convicted of corruption, whether the case ran to its logical conclusion or you decided to plead guilty, you are barred from holding public office for 10 years. So you can wait for 10 years, go back to school, and then once you get the authentic qualifications, then you can now be considered having proved that you've been out for more than 10, for at least 10 years. Yes, for 10 years.
For 10 years.
Yes.
Okay, are we looking at the same thing? Because when we look at university or institutions of higher learning, these certificates, and let's say that the forgery is suspected at that time, and because we're looking at the time that this takes to actually authenticate, number one, process, and then start to investigate, it's very possible that somebody may have the spotlight on them and decide that while you people are doing your investigations, they will actually go and do the degree
during investigation.
I mean, how would you stop them?
So these investigations on academic and professional qualifications, we are carrying out investigation to establish, one, if you have used the forged certificate for employment, for promotion, or designation. So we look at those three. You've used it to get employment, promotion, or redesignation. And that is where the offense is committed, that is where we will recover the amounts. Because we say that, let's say we are in May, you got employed in May of 2025, and then this investigation is done in 2028.
Yes.
So what the salary that we will have to recover is all that you've earned from May 2025 to the time now when, because what most of organizations are also doing, immediately they got this report from PAC, they started to ask some of these people to explain. A good number of them opted to resign, but that did not stop EACC from pursuing them because offenses had already been committed.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, if we look at somebody who is in the political sphere, political circles, you have 5 years. If you do run for re-election, maybe another 5 years thereafter, whatever the case may be. So are we saying that if you then do find that maybe somebody did present a forged certificate or gave false information about their time at an institution of higher learning, that even if their term has come to an end, that EACC would still go after them for those which they earned as a result of that initial forged certificate or question?
Correct. And the only rider is that certificate must have been a requirement for you, not even just in the political spheres. Even for in the public institutions, we have actually people who have forged certain certificates like Form 4, but they have not actually used them for promotion or maybe redesignation. So for those, we will charge them for forgery. But if you have used it for promotion, then we will have to charge you both for forgery and for fraudulent acquisition. So as long as it was a requirement, because we are saying, were it not been for this certificate that you said you had this degree or you had this grade, you will not have gotten this position. Yes.
Apart from what would be perhaps perceived as the ambiguity of the law when it comes to some things, what would you say are some of the other matters or challenges that slow down the EACC in the application of its mandate?
So there is the issue of, other than the law, the gaps in the law, the other issue is resources. And resources affects us both in terms of the numbers as well as the operations, because ideally under the new constitution we are supposed to devolve our services to actually all the counties, but so far we are only in certain towns. Like you will find, say in Mombasa, you have an office in Mombasa, maybe in charge of 3 counties. You have another in Malindi. Most of our regional offices are in charge of 5 counties. We have very, very few officers. In certain counties, you have maybe 5 or 8 officers, and the number of reports are so many. In fact, these cases for forgeries and generally all cases of corruption, we will do much if we had the resources, both financial and the numbers. And of course, the cooperation from Kenyans. Yes.
All right.
Out of curiosity, do you retain any part of the recovered money as a body, EACC, to go into your budget operations and whatnot?
We wish we could. It happens in certain jurisdictions, and it's something that we are considering making proposals so that if the government agrees, then that can also help us to fund part of our operations. Yes.
I'm sure you've heard the words that has been used oftentimes when they say, toothless and not has enough strength as it would like. That when we look at other jurisdictions really quickly, that even if there is a whiff of any kind of behavior that would not be regarded in a public setting, that person or that individual is, number one, not given the job. Number two, put in the corner, say, sit over there first of all, let's deal with this issue before we give you an opportunity. Is there a time coming when the EACC then will then be able to be that system which says, no, we will not stomach any kind of behavior that would look as though it was corrupt in any manner?
Yes, that is definitely the future we aspire to be, where we have the adequate resources, we have the adequate numbers, we have societal change in terms of even, condemning and not, coming out to defend corrupt deals. When we have an enabling legislation, at that time then we will say that, we are fully committed, because sometimes as EACC we also get concerned that, you have gone to arrest a governor, and I'm not mentioning about the one that happened yesterday, even before.
Yes.
And then you have the residents coming to demonstrate, and yet the allegations that have been brought about this official is actually against them. It's theft of their own resources.
Indeed.
So it is like, either we have not been able to connect the dots that corruption actually affect socioeconomic development and service delivery, or there's a lot of despondency.
Indeed.
Yes.
FCPA John Lolkoloi is the Director, Ethics and Leadership at the EACC. There is a conference taking place tomorrow on ethics and leadership. Where is that happening again?
Yeah, so the Ethics and Integrity Conference is happening tomorrow at the New Stanley. And this conference, we conceptualized it when we were looking at these cases of forgery of academic and professional certificates for the last 1 year. And as a commission, we said that it was not enough. It's not enough just to investigate, arraign people in court, recover what they have stolen, issue advisories. It's important that we bring the conversation, bring the stakeholders, both in law enforcement, those that employ the education sector, the academia, so that we can come and ask ourselves, how did we come here? How did we come to the issue of having forged academic certificates, and what can we do to arrest the situation?
Thanks for sharing with us this morning and for being in the hot seat of the Situation Room. Asante Sana.
Thank you.
At 8:01, good morning.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Lau Ubaga. 4 people are receiving treatment for severe burns at Kericho County Referral Hospital after a makeshift Chang'an distillery exploded in Kirimoru, Kipkelion West. According to Joel Tanui, the nurse in charge at the hospital, the 4 individuals sustained burns to their faces and hands but are responding well to treatment. Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya is set to be arraigned at the Milimani Law Courts in Nairobi following his arrest by Anti-Graft Commission detectives over alleged county financial irregularities totaling 1.4 billion shillings. A joint team of EACC and DCI officers raided his residence in Milimani, Kitale early Monday morning in his absence. He'll be charged with alleged corruption alongside Emmanuel Masungo, Chief Officer Finance, Dorothy Nyukuri, Chief Officer Water, Elia Liambula, Director Procurement, and Desmond Shivachi, Contractor Proxy to the Governor. Natembeya was arrested in his Nairobi residence on Monday and grilled at the Integrity Center before being processed for charging. The residents from his area have, however, said that they do not understand why their leader has been arrested.
Mimi nataka kuhakikishia watu wa Trans Nzoia, yule ataguza mheshimiwa gavana Natembeya, sisi tunaenda kupambana na wewe. Kama ni mheshimiwa Rais Kasongo, Trans Nzoia sisi tumekuwa watu wa upinzani na hatuogopi kabisa.
Opposition leaders, on the other hand, have condemned Natembeya's arrest, saying that President Ruto is undermining leaders on the opposition side.
Proper charges have been brought before the lawyers have been told why our client has been brought here. You find EACC circulating on social media accusations, trying to create the perception that governor is corrupt, trying to create the perception that there's been looting in Trans Nzoia. That is totally unprofessional, and it's prejudicial to the case of Governor Natembeya.
If it quacks like a duck, swims like a duck, then it is a duck. This one is political persecution. It is not fight against corruption.
A standoff is in the offing between the national and county governments over the fate of 20,000 UHC workers currently working under the national government. The Council of Governors say it will not absorb the UHC workers in the county payroll, citing insufficient funding, discriminatory job terms and a lack of clarity from the national government. CAG Chair Ahmed Abdullahi says counties will reject the transition unless their conditions are met, adding that they have not officially received the UHC payroll and won't accept it unless it comes with the money to cover salaries. The healthcare workers employed on contract under the UHC program have been protesting, demanding immediate absorption into permanent and pensionable terms and payment of long-promised gratuity, something that the Health CS Aidan Dwale says will come to a fulfillment beginning July 1st. The United Democratic Alliance has expelled nominated Senator Gloria Roba for gross misconduct and violating the party's constitution and code of conduct. UDA Secretary General Hassan Omar said that the party's National Executive Committee unanimously approved the expulsion in response to the disciplinary committee's recommendations. Senator Roba was found guilty of several counts of misconduct, including making public statements that harmed the party's image and repeatedly failing to respond to disciplinary charges. UDA has since written to the Registrar of Political Parties and the Speaker of the Senate to formally communicate Roba's expulsion and begin the process of removing her from the Senate as a nominated legislator on the party's ticket. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Traffic.
Brought to you by I&M Bank, on your side.
All right, take a quick look. What's happening with traffic? We are smack in the middle of traffic hour at a few minutes after 8 o'clock. And with the morning rains, it slowed things down quite some. There is a lot of traffic coming on Kangunda Road. And take a look at the Thika Super Highway. It's coming in heavy all the way from Githurai through towards Kasarani and out towards Garden City. It's going to find its way right around the Globe Cinema roundabout. And it's very busy. Also coming off of Wangari Maathai, joining the traffic that gets onto Uhuru Highway. It's also doing the thing on Kiambu Road as well as on Limuru Road today through Muthaiga, Lower Quebec Spring Valley, James Gitcher Road. An absolute mess as you approach Red Hill. So we're going to keep
Traffic updates brought to you by I&M Bank, empowering you to achieve your dreams and secure your future with our financial solutions across Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and Mauritius. I&M Bank, on your side.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
8 after 7, and this is the Situation Room into the third hour of conversations that matter and stuff that we talk about that's necessary to have as you keep on our platforms of Facebook, YouTube, and X, and our audiences on KTN Ndu and Jesse Rodgers with you this morning as we go into a commercial banking regional conversation this morning. We are starting off and joining us in the studio today is the head of commercial banking with Stanbic Bank. His name is Renato D'Souza. Mr. D'Souza, good morning.
Good morning, Du.
How are you?
Good morning.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing very fine, thank you.
Karibu Sana. You're in the hot seat of the Situation Room. Recently, we were talking regional issues, and of course, the banking arena comes into play here, and making the transition and making businesses more resilient, definitely, and that forms part of the conversation that we will be having this morning. But even as we get into it, I will also love to share something with you in a short while, and that is our proverb. But before we do, are you looking to stretch your shilling? Looking for value that stretches your shilling? Let Naivas be your home of deals. And Naivas, we know shopping isn't just about ticking off a list, it's about an experience, and that's why That is why Kikapu Kibonge is more than just a shopping basket. It's big, it's beautiful, and guess what? It never gets full. With unbeatable promotions, exclusive discounts, and everyday low prices, you just keep adding more and still spend less. So, from farm fresh ingredients to those little household must-haves, everything you need is waiting at your nearest Naivas Kiloko. So come, fill your Kikapu with value, variety, and the warmth of a true Kenyan shopping experience. Karibu Naivas, the home of deals. So, Rato, as we normally do, we're going to welcome you to the Situation Room with today's proverb, and we're going to put you to work. So, in terms of your ability to then interpret, we'll tell you where our proverb is from this week, and we'd also love for you to do an interpretation of the same for us.
Sure.
We are in Mozambique this week, and our proverb goes like this. It is only the I beg your pardon. So it is only the elephant. Sorry, there is no elephant that complains about the weight of its tusks.
Okay, thank you. Wow. So my interpretation of that proverb is sometimes life does throw us challenges, and you're not too, should I say, incapable of carrying those challenges with you. So God never throws you challenges that you cannot overcome.
Yeah.
I think in my view that's the meaning of that.
It's true.
Yeah.
You go with it somehow. You and Jesse on the same page there.
What is it they say about great minds?
They think I like
It's already been established, and that's where we are.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're looking into giving us an overview of what usually when we're banking and we think, okay, so I'm in the banking hall, I'm depositing or I'm removing cash, I'm taking a loan, I'm funding my business, or I'm just paying fees, I'm getting things done. And for a lot of people, the banking agenda begins and ends there. But we've seen over time that things have really transitioned, and they've really moved to a place where a bank, Stanbic, is not just where you just go and deposit and withdraw. That there's a lot that's happening to ensure the spaces in which we transact financially are developing just as we are. So walk us through a little bit of that journey in terms of what's happening before we then get into what it's doing for resilience and growth around the region.
Yeah, thank you, Ndu. Maybe before I answer that question, allow me just to give you a brief of how we're structured, and it will probably answer that question. So, Stanbic Bank is a listed bank. We're listed in the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Our parent company is based in Johannesburg, South Africa. And the way we are structured in Kenya is that we have 3 business units. So we have the corporate and investment banking, and this is where we take care of the large local corporates, the global multinationals, the large public sector names. And then we have the business and commercial banking, which is where I sit, and this basically looks after the mid-sized corporates. And then we have the personal and business banking, which is basically the retail banking. So in terms of the landscape, and when you look at the Kenyan economy, a lot of stuff is happening within that commercial banking space. And as a bank, we've made a deliberate strategy to focus on that agenda. In fact, at group level, the East Africa Growth Agenda is firmly part of the group strategy. So when you look at this region, we're talking about an economy of 56 million people. And when you look broader across the region, Kenya, Uganda, combined population of about 170 million people. So very, very huge opportunity. A lot of these people are looking for basic banking services. And I think that's where we as Stanbic come in to support local businesses and support the growth of this economy. And like I mentioned, it's not only in Kenya, but across the region, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what does your role entail as head of commercial banking? Yeah.
Okay, fine. Maybe just to give a brief about myself so that I can try answer that. So I'm a career banker. I've spent about 15 years in banking. Previously, I was in corporate and investment banking. Like I mentioned, that deals with the large local corporates and the multinationals. I, however, transitioned into commercial banking, and commercial banking is basically the mid-sized corporate. Like I mentioned, it's mid-sized corporates that run, that operate in this economy, and within that commercial banking space, we have different sectors. So the way we structured our business is aligned to the different sectors that support the growth of the Kenya economy. So agriculture, we have a diversified sector that looks after manufacturing, we have a public sector team, we have a technology and medium team. So I oversee that team, basically of relationship managers that interface between actors, the interface between the clients and the bank. So my role essentially is leading that team, understanding clients, businesses, providing solutions that essentially meet those clients' needs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when we look into how this then gets out into the region and how people then can come in, what does the commercial proposition entail in terms of what then you're able to do for people?
Okay, that's a very good question. I think when you look at the commercial banking proposition, it's quite diverse. Like I mentioned, we are sector focused. We do have various sectors that sort of mirror the Kenyan landscape. So our commercial banking proposition cuts across the various sectors. And just to give you some insights on some of the propositions we have. So for for example, agriculture contributes about 21% of this economy. If you look at the key value chains within agriculture, tea, for example, is one of the key sectors that drives growth of this economy. Mm-hmm. In fact, I was just looking at the data. Last year, we, from our FX perspective, we earned 215 billion. As Stanbic Bank, we actually known as the Tea Bank. We have supported that entire value chain from the farmer, where the tea is grown, mm-hmm. Right up to the tea exchange. Okay. The tea exchange in Ombaso. So across those verticals, we have provided solutions, including working capital facilities for the downstream players, those the buyers and the brokers. When you look at upstream, we have provided growth capital to the independent tea producers and the farmer. We have something called chai loans. So a lot of these farmers who supply tea to the to the tea factories sometimes would not necessarily have the money to make ends meet. So we've come up with something called chai loans to support them. I mentioned to you manufacturing, and I think this is one interesting area. Mm-hmm. If you look at the contribution of manufacturing to the economy, it's quite low. But as you may be aware, the government is trying to push that to 20% by 2030. Mm-hmm. So as a bank, we are very keen on supporting that sector. We are in the process of finalizing our family-owned business proposition. And basically, this speaks to how we support family-owned businesses which operate within that sector with growth capital. When you look at some of the family-owned businesses, these are businesses that are sort of transitioning to second, third generation. Yeah. So ours it's more than financial, I would say. If you look at the non-financial aspect, the advisory piece of it, allowing them to expand into the region, because a lot of them are looking at expansion opportunities across the region. So I would say in terms of our proposition, it cuts across the different sectors.
So when you talk about growth capital, you're talking about essentially loans or credit. Or what do you mean by growth? What do you mean by growth capital?
Growth capital doesn't
especially when you talk about support. Sorry. Yeah.
So not necessarily growth capital, and I think this is something probably we need to demystify.
I think so.
When people talk about growth capital, there are various sources of capital. Remember, debt is just one component of how you could fund your business. At Standard Bank, we look at various options. Remember, we have a very strong advisory team. We're able to help you access the debt capital markets, equity capital markets. So over and above traditional debt, we can also look at other various forms of funding. And maybe just to give you an example, and this is in the public domain. I think if you look, you're aware about the Aseto transaction regarding students' accommodation. When that client approached the bank, we thought that there were more innovative ways of them accessing capital rather than the traditional vanilla loans. So we arranged for them a green bond. We were able to tap into the capital markets, specifically through the London Stock Exchange, and we were able to raise for them a green bond, which was deployed towards affordable students' accommodation. So when I talk about growth capital, it's not necessarily debt. It is alternative sources of capital, and it's also important to understand that the way we are structured as a bank, we do have representation across different parts of the world. So we are 20% owned by ICBC. We're able to tap into the capital that sits in Asia. We are in New York. We're in London. So bringing these pools of liquidity to try and support growth of the African continent is something that we pride ourselves into.
I'd like to take your focus to steps the bank is taking to tap into current and emerging growth sectors in Kenya and around the East Africa region. Because in Kenya, case in point, there's so much emphasis on empowering micro and small-sized medium enterprises and to buffer them up for economic resilience. We well know of the critical role MSMEs play in Kenya's economic sector. Talk to us about the steps taken by the bank to tap into, case in point, the MSME sector in terms of financial support, if it's capacity building, if it's digital literacy to some of this youth and vulnerable groups, including women who might be, looking forward to get into your business and whatnot.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. And I'm glad you asked that question. So if you look at the SME landscape, we're talking about 1.5 million registered SMEs in Kenya. The number could be much higher, depending on how you want to look at it. But this cuts across the micro that would not necessarily be banked, and then you have the SMEs. So it's quite broad. Traditionally, banks have looked at the bankable population, which is probably the 1.5 million. If I was to look at the opportunity size. So two things we've done. One is we do have a Standard Foundation. So for the micros that would not necessarily have access to credit, we have worked with the Standard Foundations and development partners like the USAID, USADF to try and provide grants. In fact, we did run a grant program, and there are quite a number of MSMEs that were successful in accessing those grants. So working closely with the Standard Foundation, we have been able to support the micro SMEs. From an SME perspective, I think one of the, we did run a survey some time back, and what was interesting is a lot of these SMEs didn't, the feedback was interesting. A lot of them said access to credit was an issue, access to markets was an issue, and what we did is we've developed our digital lending capability, which uses data to pre-qualify clients. So we are able to use data to provide unsecured facilities up to 3 million. For a maximum of 24 months without them necessarily having to provide collateral. And if you look at the numbers, this year alone, I think we've provided about 2.4 billion worth of loans to that category of clients, which can be quite transformational. And the other thing we try and say within the business and commercial banking space is about positive impact. So it's not about lending, it's about creating positive impact. So job creation and also access to credit is what we're trying to push. So I think in those two aspects, the Standard Foundation and a lot of stuff we're doing around the digital lending has helped us to get more people within the banking space and improve financial inclusion.
How have you seen that these small and medium enterprises have improved in terms of their business operation, their business offering, as a result of the input that you've been able to deliver?
So I'll give you an example. There's 2 weeks ago, we spent a bit of time in Kamkunji, and it's a very interesting market. If you've been to Kamkunji, it's probably one of the spaces you'll see, or the microeconomies that you'll agree with me that does have quite a huge population of these traders. And there's one lady we supported. She imports shoes from China, and she's been able to. They've been able to, as women, they've been able to aggregate and bring in containers of shoes, which they then sell through Kamkunji. So they have this distribution model where the wholesale, they would bring them wholesale and then sell them to the retailers. That lady has been able to open, I think, 2 or 3 more shops. In fact, she's opened a smaller shop for her daughter. She's been able to build, she's now into real estate. She's built a small apartments, which she's renting out. And to me, that was really, positive impact that I believe we as a bank have made at a micro level. Because this lady ideally would not be able to tap into, funding. But the small support that we've been able to give her has enabled her broaden her business, has enabled her grow her business to the point that she's now, into real estate. So to me, that was profound, and I think that is the kind of support that we as a bank are providing to a lot of the, the SMEs and commercial banking customers within Kenya.
Okay. So technology obviously is a big issue here, that when you looked previously at how we're able to do things, that technology didn't play a big role. But today it is, that you can be seated at the comfort of your home and you're doing so many things at the same time, or you can be on the go, and you're going ahead to bank. They're essential for transactions. So the question is, how is it redefining commercial banking? We've seen it redefine so many other areas, education, markets, etc. How is this actually redefining this sector where we see that there's growth that's spurring across the region?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I mean, if you look at the traditional banking and, where we've come from and where we are today, I think there's been leaps and strides that the banking industry has made. Just to give you an example, previously, you would need to go to a bank with heaps of documentation to apply for credit, and as you can imagine, the process of loan applications was quite erroneous, time-consuming, and it also limited the access to credit, so to speak. Today, if you're a Stanbic customer, at the comfort of your phone, you are able to go to your profile. You will be able to access pre-approved limits and actually, buy a vehicle. It's almost like Fuliza, but on a larger scale. So using pre-scored lending and data, we're able to understand customer behavior. We're able to risk rate and credit score our clients and provide basic banking services that ideally would not be available on traditional platforms. So at the click of a button, you're able to access a loan and to buy a vehicle instantly and, make payment to your supplier. I think that's the kind of transformation in terms of technology. But I also think it's the efficiencies that technology has created in certain value chains. And sorry to take you back to the tea sector. If you look at the tea sector traditionally, there was a lot of... it was a very disintegrated industry, in the sense that the buyers and brokers and the tea producers were not brought into one platform. And what we did as a bank is that we developed a electronic billboard. It's sort of a digital platform where all these participants can interact. And so in so doing, we created a lot of efficiency to the extent that farmers were able to get real-time payments for any sale of tea that is being done at the auction. So if you go to the Yata exchange in Mombasa, the billboard that trades tea is actually a Stanbic system.
Okay.
And that system, once the catalogs are uploaded and, the buyers buy the tea, payment is made through the digital platform, and it just basically settles the brokers, the buyers, and, ultimately the farmer gets their share. But that's the power of technology, and that's the innovation that we bring as a bank. There's also an interesting piece of work that we're doing within the dairy space. If you look at the dairy industry, a lot of the small-scale farmers supply milk to the processors.
Yes.
We have come up with technology that allows us to get data on how much milk is being delivered to these processors, and based on that data, we can be able to give them advances against what they've delivered. But not only advances, we are able to connect them to input suppliers. So if you need animal feed, we're able to connect you to the supplier, and you don't necessarily have to pay for it. So that technology brings together all these participants and sort of creates efficiency, and also improves the output for the farmer. So yeah. I think that's some of the examples of what we as a bank have done from a technology perspective.
Yeah. For sure, looking into some of these issues, and I think as we look at a growing region and we look at now trade, where we're talking about a community that you're adding countries to with hundreds of millions of people, then what can you look for in terms of future support? We'll come back from a break and we'll discuss that in just a few minutes. We're talking this morning with the head of commercial banking at Stanbic, that's Renato D'Souza, and we're looking at how commercial banking drives innovation, resilience and growth across the region. We'll take a break and look at weather and traffic, and then we'll come back and discuss some more of these issues. It's now 8:30. We'll be back and we'll talk more after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This May, the stage is set, the mic is on, and the search begins.
Welcome to Next Superstar.
From raw vocals to big talent, the search is on for Africa's next hit maker. Next Superstar is here. Premiering May 3rd at 8 p.m. exclusively on Remo TV Plus, StarTimes Channel 56 or Channel 166. Buy a DTT StarTimes decoder for only 1,399 bob or a DTH for 3,199 shillings to enjoy unlimited entertainment. Join judges Size 8, King Kaka, Motive, and hosted by Amina and Butita on Next Superstar. Renew your subscription on DTH Smart Bouquet at 1,199 shillings only, or DTT Basic Bouquet at 749 shillings only. You can dial *858# for self-service or call our customer care on 0730 710077. StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
The weather with SpiceFM.
17 degrees and partly sunny conditions in Nairobi. It's 18 and sunny in Nakuru with 17 and sunny in Nyeri. Eldoret is sunny at 16 and Mombasa partly sunny at 25 with sunny conditions at 26 in Malindi. It's cloudy at 22 in Kisumu and 21 and sunny in Kakamega. Kampala at 21 is cloudy and Dar es Salaam is sunny at 25. 12 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg with 28 and sunny in Mogadishu. 19 and the sun is up in Addis Ababa, while it's mostly sunny at 27 in Lagos. It's cloudy after the morning rain at 24.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, so what does it look like now? It is pretty busy as you're coming into the city off the Thika Superhighway, and the traffic is just formed its way onto Wangari Maathai, and then you'll find that collecting with what is coming off of Uhuru Highway So that all very, very busy this morning. And traffic is even coming in still from way before the Allsops junction. Very crazy at this point. Kiambu Road from the northern bypass through towards Muthaiga Square. Still doing that thing. And you're coming off Wayaki with a lot of traffic this morning. And the same thing is happening right around Lower Kabete going towards Spring Valley. Very, very busy right around Muthaiga. So this all is doing its thing over here. And then we see traffic on Langata Road also having built up as you come in from Uhuru Gardens at the interchange. And also on Gong Road, quite some traffic as you get towards the city. We're still in traffic hour. It is proper. Keeping an eye on all of this and try to keep it moving. Let's talk SpiceFM on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Renato D'Souza is the head of commercial banking with Stanbic Bank Kenya. And this morning we're looking at how commercial banking drives innovation, resilience and growth across the region. Having looked at, some of these issues that we've spoken about before, Renato, and saying, okay, so we're getting to a place whereby there is a lot of growth. There are more people today who are doing business than they were obviously 10 years ago. And looking at solutions that will then be able to assist them to sustain their business. Is there enough, along these lines, what you've talked about, growth capital, growth support, for the numbers of people that we're seeing entering into the market?
They say any good idea, capital will follow any good idea. I think, like I mentioned, the way we are positioned as a bank is we are able to access different sources of capital. We do have our 20% shareholder ICBC, which is the largest bank in the world, and they are able to provide us with that access to capital that necessarily doesn't sit in Africa. When you look at financial markets like New York or London, these are pools of capital that we as a bank are able to access, leveraging on our distribution network. But like I mentioned, capital does not necessarily come in the form of debt. There are alternative sources of capital. So when you look at the debt capital markets or the equity capital markets, we have supported businesses to access the capital markets through the Nairobi Stock Exchange. I think if you go through the various literature that is out there, we've actually supported quite a number of companies to access this capital. Remember, we are also part of the Standard Bank Group, so we can tap into capital as and when. We have, from an SME perspective and commercial banking perspective, we do have a very strong balance sheet that is able to deploy capital into the various sectors, and we've done this quite successfully, not only for the individuals, but from a commercial banking point of view, we do have various innovative solutions that we've come up with to provide capital. If you look, for example, at the agri sector, some of the customers we've talked to don't necessarily have the collateral, so we've tapped into structured trade and commodity financing facilities to provide capital to support macadamia farmers, avocado farmers, tea farmers, coffee farmers. So rest assured, we do have adequate capital, and that does not necessarily mean that we are providing debt, but also tapping into other pools of liquidity.
Okay. Just to take you back to the embracing the digital advent and all that, are you in the process of incorporating AI into your day-to-day activities, perhaps in terms of customer relations at any point, at any structure? Because you have to strike a balance between those who value human-to-human interaction and those who are looking for the digital tech-savvy bank that can, serve their needs at the click of a button and whatnot. So talk to us about that. But equally, I'd like your take on the steps the bank is taking to facilitate regional trade and integration. Because in the digital world we live in. The world is a global village. We've heard of borderless banking. How real time is it in case I'm a customer at Standard Bank? Trade financing as well. The facilitation of trade within the East African community and region by supporting businesses and expanding their operations across the borders. Talk to us about that.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. I think I'll answer the second question first. There's a very interesting piece of data I came across. Have you ever asked yourself where Kenya sits in terms of ranking of population?
In Africa or in the region?
Globally.
Tell us.
Yeah, so I was driving from Nyanyuki with one of my colleagues last week, and Kenya is 26th globally in terms of population ranking. We have about 56 million people. When you look at Tanzania, about 70 million people. Uganda, maybe 50. So we're talking of a population of about 170. When you look at this region compared to the rest of Africa, and I think it's one model that a lot of economic blocks have tried to replicate. We're talking about a market of 170 people that are integrated. I think this is the most integrated
170
region.
Million people.
170, and this is Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. I'm excluding DRC and Ethiopia.
Yes.
Because that takes us to probably 500 million people and puts us, if you look at India, 1.4 billion, China, so probably put us in top 10. But, when you look at that data and the way we sit as East Africa, it's a very integrated region. And the need for connectivity in terms of banking is very critical. So if you look at the interregional trade between Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, we actually have a very huge trading block, and there's a lot of trade that happens between Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. If you look at fresh food, vegetable, manufacturing goods from Kenya into Uganda. And one of the things people find very difficult is the ease of payments. How do you make payment from one jurisdiction to another seamlessly, efficiently, to facilitate cross-border trade? And it's something that we as a bank have, we've really looked into that. We've come up with a borderless banking proposition where a trader in Uganda is able to make payment to a supplier in Kenya instantly without necessarily to transfer money. So, when you want to buy goods from Kenya, you just need to make payment into your supplier in Kenya at the comfort of your office, and that sort of facilitates cross-border trade. So I would say there's a lot of work that has been done. There's still more. There's the East African payment system that is being developed, and as a bank, we are firmly positioned to take advantage of that. They say by 2030, 1.5 trillion worth of payments will be transacted within these borders. So, developing that digital capability is critical for us, and through our borderless banking proposition, we are able to provide customers with that ease of transacting and moving payments across borders. To your first question around AI, definitely. There's a lot of AI being used now. We as a bank are also trying to take advantage of that. Like I mentioned, we do have a data team that analyzes customer data, and we are even able to tell the next best product. So Jesse, trust me, if you're a Stanbic customer, I probably will be able to tell you using, the models that we have that Jesse just bought a Mercedes. He probably is a candidate for insurance product.
Yeah.
So using AI, data analytics, there's a lot of information that we're getting remotely, and we're interpreting this data to make informed decisions. Something interesting also is, traditionally a sales job was, I would say, very mechanical. So you'd have to come up with a sales plan, identify opportunities, and try and go out to seek those opportunities. Today at the bank, we're using data and information to try and point relationship managers to where opportunities would be. So when you get a call from your relationship manager thanking you and probably probing you about a certain product. There's something they know that you probably are not able to tell. So using that kind of technology, the bank is supporting individuals and corporates to trend and access credit and make more informed decisions.
Yeah, the management of money landscape is also changing in terms of what people are then able to do and where they put their money for the future.
Yeah.
Whether it is, sending your child to school in a different area, whether it's managing wealth later on. What are some of the innovations that are going towards that under the umbrella to ensure that people have, that nest egg that they may be looking for, that basket of goodies to keep for later?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So, and I think Jesse had asked that question and I probably didn't answer it. It's around how we are supporting individuals make correct
financial decisions, whether it's in the present or in the future.
Yeah. So we run something called a Financial Fitness Academy. I like saying that Stanbic, we're more than lending. We have a Financial Fitness Academy that we run as a bank. So if you're a Stanbic customer, we are able to take your staff or take you through basic financial literacy. And, based on experience, what you think is obvious is not obvious to a lot of people. How you create wealth, how you transfer wealth, how you preserve wealth is something that is not obvious to people. So we run these Financial Fitness Academies. We don't charge for that proposition. We're able to educate our clients on how to make better informed financial decisions for the future. But also from a financial perspective, we do have different capabilities within the bank. So we have a wealth and investment banking team that supports clients in making wealth decisions. So if you're an individual and you're looking to create wealth, and if you look at that wealth journey, there's wealth creation, there's wealth preservation, there's wealth transfer. So there's a lot of products that we have within those verticals to support clients, including our offshore capability. A lot of the, just to take you back into commercial banking and family-owned businesses, what we're seeing now is that a lot of the family-owned businesses are transitioning into second, third generation. As you get to the third generation, you find a lot of these heirs to the businesses don't really want to get involved in these businesses. And I think I personally, my dad ran a small business, and after he educated us, it's only my older brother who wanted to go back and support the business. But for the rest of us, we're not interested. So working together with our offshore team, we are able to support clients in that transition, through creating trusts and separating management from ownership, such that if the owners of the business want to take a back seat, the business can still run, and whether it's a dividend or whatever, they can still run it. And that also speaks to the individual level. So, you've created, you've worked hard, you've earned money. What are the different sources of the different solutions with respect to investing? And we also have come up with a new business unit, our insurance and asset management, where we've come up with our a team that supports customers in terms of wealth and asset management. So we do have a money market fund, both in local currency and foreign currency, that you could invest in. So if you look at both the individual and the corporate, we do have various solutions that we support clients in terms of preserving wealth and securing it for the future generations. Yeah.
And so how does that start off? Somebody comes in and says, here I am, and this is what I would like to do. This is what I have. How does that conversation then begin? And then what does it then essentially transition to?
Yeah. So it begins with understanding at what stage the individual or the corporate is. Remember, if you're just starting off as a business, you probably will not have money to invest in for savings or for future. So that conversation starts by understanding the life cycle of that individual or corporate. Once we understand that life cycle, we're able to come up with solutions that are tailor-made to individuals. At Stanbic, we say we don't sell product, we sell solutions, because what works for Jesse will not work for Ndu. So we really need to be very, very intimate with the client to understand what is it that they are looking for, and at what stage they are in the investment cycle to be able to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
A more mature client or individual would probably be investing in euro bonds, in long-term securities, in money market funds. So it's understanding the life cycle and then tailoring that solution to meet the needs of that client or individual.
Yeah. And where do you start? Some people are saying, well, I need to have been at a certain place before I can now even come down and have a conversation with somebody. Are there requirements as to where in this journey I must be as an individual or as a business to come and have this conversation?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It just, we pride in ourselves in the sense that we do have relationship managers that are well trained and they understand the market, they understand the individuals. So it's a question of engaging your relationship manager, walking into a Standard Bank branch, engaging the relationship manager, and basically telling your story. Once we understand your needs, we will be able to come up with the solution that meets your requirement.
Yeah.
So it's that initial conversation that you need to engage with us, and more often than not, we probably have a solution that meets your needs. Yeah.
Okay, and it's good to know that you're quite keen on understanding wealth management and enhancing financial literacy. I'd like your take on your gender inclusive economic participation programs that you have at Stanbic, but equally knowing very well that agriculture is a key cog in Kenya's economy. What are some of the agribusiness commercial banking solutions that are available for potential customers and present customers? Yeah.
Okay. From a financial inclusion perspective?
Yes.
Yeah. So within the SME space, we have 6 personas that we support. The trader, the farmer, healthcare. One of the personas we support is the Dada. And Dada speaks to women. It stands for Dare to Aspire, Dare to Achieve. So it's a Dada proposition that we've come up with, and it specifically speaks to the women. It speaks to women-led businesses. We are very keen on supporting women-led businesses, both, again, financial and non-financial. We've also brought in development partners, credit agencies to de-risk and help us support the women-led business. One thing that is interesting, Jesse, the credit default rate for women is much less than men.
I hear that.
It's much less than men. And I was having a chat with one of the chairman of chairman of one of these women-led circles. And one interesting data point that she gave me is that a lot of the women come and borrow on behalf of their sons, their husbands.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It happens. So there's a lot of trust and there's a lot of willingness to pay, which is one key attribute we look when we want to lend in financing women. So through the Dada proposition, we have come up with a proposition that supports the women in business. Like I mentioned, we have also partnered with the ATIs, the AGFs of this world to try and support that women-led agenda, and with very positive results. It's interesting to see how much women-led businesses are contributing to the Kenyan economy.
Yeah,
I think for us, we are trying to elevate that. Recently, we did host a session for women in Safaricom. About 40 women we brought together. We've supported them with funding, working through with ATD, and not necessarily asking them for security, but the performance rate of that book is quite commendable, and I guess it speaks to financial inclusion. Remember, financial inclusion is not only from the customer side, but it's also internally. We do have a matrix of the ratio between the gender balance internally as a bank. we are supposed to be at 50-50 men to women, which is something that we are really working on. We are not there yet, but there's a lot of strides that has been made in that regard. Yeah.
What's difficult about this landscape?
So it's basic challenges that women face. I think traditionally African society has shunned women, and I know I read your profile around your gender focus, and
oh my goodness,
probably we need to invite you to speak to our dada women at some point. But I think society has basically put women at the periphery of economic development, and you sort of get the feeling that society has sort of downplayed the role women hold in economic development. So women have reached this point where probably they feel they cannot be making meaningful impact. And I'm a father of 3 daughters. What I've seen is we need to empower women. We need to give them the tools and support.
If I can, So I'm trying. If I connect the dots between what you're saying, just in answer to Jesse's question, where you said, what, we've then been able to see is so much so that you've created a program, and then been able to see that this cadre of society has been able to start innovate and put the money behind businesses that are flourishing, right? So if you can see that would work, then it makes the case for saying, come on guys, here, and looking at the country at large or the region and saying, here's a model that works. So whereas you had put these people on the periphery before, this is a case for why they must be included.
Correct.
Why financial inclusion for these focus groups must be a thing that you do.
Absolutely.
Am I going in the right direction?
You're absolutely right. And precisely what our data proposition advocates for. It's financial inclusion for women. It's for women. And remember, access to credit is one thing, but having that financial literacy is another thing. So when you look at the tenders, go to any public website. Look at what is out there in terms of tenders. And I must say there's a lot of strides that have been made in terms of getting that quota up for women and special interest groups. But a lot of these tenders and opportunities are sort of earmarked for general public and not women and people with disability. So what we are finding increasingly is that a lot of corporates are looking at this differently, and they've put a quota. They've put a quota specifically for women. There's one corporate I know that has a 30% quota for women and people with disability and youth. So what are banks doing in terms of creating solutions that help them tap into that 30%? Because fine, you have the 30%. Then you walk into a bank, the bank will tell you, go provide us with 3-year audited accounts. So our data proposition has sort of tried to make that more flexible for women. We are curating a proposition that supports women in terms of capturing that opportunity without necessarily, looking for or being thrown away and not being able to capture that opportunity. So a lot of work still needs to be done, I think, as a banking sector. Stanbic has made significant strides in terms of supporting women through the data proposition.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you're able to replicate this across the region? I mean, yes, Kenya specific, I guess, for a lot of things, but are you able to replicate these ideas around a region where it's hoping to come together? And I say hoping, come together in terms of how it operates?
Yeah, most definitely. Remember, we are in 23 countries across Africa, largest bank by asset across the continent. So whatever works in one jurisdiction, we're able to quickly replicate. There's a lot of learnings we've got from different countries, and we've been able to replicate across the continent. I think that's the power we as Stanbic and Standard Bank overall bring, because we are, we see what's happening in certain markets and we're able to replicate that into other markets.
All right. So, what do you hope that would look like into the future steps being taken, and what would business then look like with the support of a financial institution? Where could we go?
Yeah, like I mentioned, we are sitting on, I would say, the verge of greatness as a bank, as a country. Look at what's happening in East Africa, the infrastructure that is going into developing this country. 2 weeks ago, we had one of our colleagues who came from Group, and it's interesting that he mentioned that he sees growth everywhere. I think we as Kenyans sometimes beat ourselves too much. There's a lot of growth that is happening in front of our eyes, but we are missing the opportunity. This is a region with 170 million people. They will need to eat, they will need to transact, they will need to communicate. So virtually every sector, they will need to live. So virtually every sector and every sector is going to experience growth. If you look at the way we've structured our business, so we have the agribusiness team. This population will have to eat. So our agriculture proposition is well positioned to tap into that opportunity. If you look at the technology space, they say Kenya is the Silicon Savannah. We do have a technology and media team that, and I encourage you, just engage. I hope you have an account. We have a Tech Connect account that has no charge.
I like that he's pointed at you.
So for the digital content creators, there's a lot of FDI coming into this country. There's a huge opportunity in terms of supporting the technology and media space. When you look at the real estate and, there's a deficit of 2 million housing per year. We are part of the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company that is providing affordable loans to individuals to access affordable housing. We're dealing not only the demand side, but also the supply side. Remember, the demand side, we're able to provide the mortgages at concessional rates. But on the demand side, there's a shortage. So we are partnering with government, we are partnering with private developers to ensure that that supply of housing is there. If you look at the infrastructure space, we do have a energy and infrastructure team within commercial banking. So a lot of what is happening in terms of infrastructure, in terms of wholesale and retail, with respect to petroleum product, a lot of this, to move the economy, you need petroleum product to move. We are providing structured trade facilities to a lot of the independent power producers to import black fuel to power these power plants. So to answer your question, the opportunity is there. It's for us to miss it.
Indeed.
It's for us to miss it.
Renato de Souza is the head of commercial banking. Stanbic Bank Kenya has been our guest this hour. Thank you for those insights. Good to see a bank on the move, as the region is as well. Asante, it is 1 minute past 9.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for hosting me.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the news wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. A suspect in the murder of Kasipul Member of Parliament Charles Were was on Monday rearrested after a court cancelled his bail. Businessman Philip Okoh had been released on bail pending investigations into the murder. However, the prosecution appealed the release and a Kibra court cancelled the bail, prompting police to track and arrest him. The court ordered that he be detained at Kileleshwa police station for 7 days pending the conclusion of investigations. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions had appealed his release. Okoh was released last week on a 300,000 shillings cash bail by Jomo Kenyatta International Airport Magistrate Court. Kabuchai MP Majimbo Kalasinga has slammed the government for allegedly using intimidation and excessive force against his critics. Speaking in his constituency, Kalasinga MP has expressed the need for the government to maintain democracy and protect freedom of expression. He used the opportunity to criticize the arrest of his fellow MP, Peter Selassie of Mumias East, saying he and opposition leaders will continue to hold the government accountable.
My bosses are in Kapchai. There is no day I will have allegiance to anybody other than the voters of Kapchai constituency. The intimidation we are getting as members of parliament, starting from the way they are badly harassing and intimidating Peter Salassi. I want to tell this government that you have touched in the wrong way. Those are the youths of this country.
Likewise, Kalasinga has expressed regret over the way the government is humiliating and attacking leaders who criticize some of its controversial policies.
Peter Salassi has been arrested on an clear accusation. We don't know why he's being accused. Eti aliongea maneno mbaya. Na kuongea maneno mbaya hairuhusu serikali kutumia bunduki kupika marisasi ya tairi zake zote za magari. Gari yanguke wamshike from that. This is a honorable member of parliament. When you can just come to parliament, akimaliza debating, na unamchukua, unaenda kuindoreketi yeye. Number 2, I have seen another intimidation to our son of this soil. The son that knows the problems of the people of Bungoma and Trans Nzoia. The man that knows the problem of the people in Western Kenya. One, Mheshimiwa George Natembea.
The Kenya Meteorological Department has announced that rains will continue in various parts of the country. In a weather update for today from today all the way to Monday next week, Kenya Met listed several regions which will experience rainfalls in the stated period. In Nairobi, the weather will be mostly cloudy with occasional sunny intervals, and temperatures will range from 15 to 25 degrees Celsius. Mombasa is expected to be sunny with showers, with temperatures ranging between 25 and 29 degrees Celsius. Kisumu will experience a mix of rain and sunny intervals, with temperatures fluctuating between 19 and 28 degrees Celsius. Eldoret, much like Kisumu, will see rains accompanied by sunny intervals, and Nakuru will enjoy sunny intervals. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
Brought to you by I&M Bank, on your side.
Okay, so at a few minutes after 9 o'clock, what does it look like on these streets? It's been a busy morning, and we're still seeing quite a lot of this traffic coming on from Langata Road, heading on towards parts of Ombaso Road, and then onto Huru Highway. Incoming traffic on Ombaso Road is actually quite a thing, and we're still seeing some traffic on the Thika Superhighway coming in from as far back as Githurai. So very heavy still. Northern Bypass has some traffic, and it's feeding into Kiambu Road. Kiambu Road traffic this morning is epic. Also, as you come onto Limuru Road in from Roslyn out towards Village Market, that's also doing the thing, and there's traffic still on Lower Kabete through towards Spring Valley. Let's keep an eye on all of this. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Traffic updates brought to you by I&M Bank, empowering you to achieve your dreams and secure your future with our financial solutions across Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and Mauritius. I&M Bank, on your side.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so when you're making a decision, who do you make it with? And the question is, who's going to be there to empower you? Who's going to make sure that every dream pursued is actually achieved? And imagine having a trusted ally by your side always. Well, that's the I&M Bank promise. As we get into a few minutes after 7 o'clock, rather after 9 o'clock, we empower you with the tools and support to turn your aspirations into reality. Whether it's a new business venture, your child's education, or securing your future, I&M Bank is here for you. From flexible financial solutions to personalized guidance, I&M is on your side, championing progress and celebrating your successes. Don't just bank, build your future with a partner who believes in you. Experience the power of on your side banking, and you can find out more about this at any I&M branch close to you. So I&M, remember, is on your side. We're getting into a conversation this morning, and we're going to be asking the question about which way Kenya. And there's so many things that are happening. I mean, like we said earlier, on a Monday, I don't know, the series of things that we saw taking place. Before that, there's still not so salient issues that are still in the background. You know how when your computer is on and there are many programs running. Yeah. I know, taking up the memory, running at the same time. Yeah. Even if there was a crash of the computer, it wouldn't just be one thing that contributed to it. Mm-hmm. And it just looks like there's so many things that are happening at the same time. We're going to take a look into that conversation shortly with Professor Omenya as soon as he is here. But in the meantime, how about I tell you how you can do shopping and your basket never actually gets full and you spend less. I know, it's magic. But are you looking for value that stretches your shilling? Let Naivas be your home of deals. At Naivas, we know shopping isn't just about ticking off a list. It's about experience. That's why Kikapu Kibonge is more than just a shopping basket. It's a big, bountiful, and guess what? It never gets full. With unbeatable promotions, exclusive discounts, and everyday low prices, you just keep adding more and you spend less. Told you it was magic. From farm fresh ingredients to those little household must-haves, everything you need is waiting at your nearest Naivas Kiloko. So come fill your kikapu with value, variety, and the warmth of a true Kenyan shopping experience. Karibu Naivas, the home of deals with Naivas Kikapu Kibonge. Our guest joins us in a short while, but even as he does, the questions coming in already is that how do we deal with all the things that are happening at the same time? Oh, we can make a list, shall we? If we want to start internally, we woke up Monday morning and there were, in the western part of the country, there were arrests over investigations, and then the gentleman was arrested in Nairobi. Over the weekend, we saw the member of parliament from Mumias East, Peter Salasia, was arrested, whatever the reason was, that he then presented in court yesterday morning. As though we were not out of the water, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua held a presser where he now told us that he received intelligence about how people wanted to plant things on him and then, you know, taint him a different color. And then that went on and on and on. So this was all Monday. This didn't happen over 2 weeks. This was just Monday, in case you're wondering. And we're not yet done. The night before, Senior Counsel Martha Karua was in Dar es Salaam. Yes, she actually did make it to Dar es Salaam, and then no sooner had she gotten there, she was deported. This happened and then bled into Monday when Willie Mutunga and a group of others also were detained for a long time and then deported. This was all happening around the whole Tundu Lissu trial, which was essentially to begin yesterday. All of these things happened on Monday. We also then started to hear different proclamations about different things. Now, this is what's happening when you have your computer and the different things are running. In the back end, there are also many other things happening, that political temperatures are rising. People are starting to ask questions about who done what. We also have the backlash that comes as a result of certain things having not been done, education capitation being one of them. We want to change the education system. Maybe SHA is working a little bit better than it was before. And then now we are seeing that maybe we want to spend some more money on some stadia that, you know, almost 800 million shillings was spent on and is yet to be finished. All of these things, I'm telling you, Jesse, I promise you, they're happening in Kenya. They're happening in Kenya.
You can be bombarded with so much happening. I mean, that's why the Fourth Estate is an integral part in Kenya's democracy, because we have a woke society that needs facts first. And that's where we come in as the Standard Group, Spice, KTN, you name it, just to, you know, dot the I's, cross the T's, because Kenyans have to wake up and smell the coffee. There's so much happening, both good, both bad, more bad than good, if that's your assumption of it. And at times we're told we're too critical, you know. We're throwing the baby with the bathwater, that, you know, we should be cognizant to the fact that these things take time in terms of implementing good policy, that it's, you know, it's not an event, it's a process.
Sure.
You know.
In this case, where, you know, people keep talking this thing, Jesse, and talk about the baby and the bathwater. Okay, fine. Which one is the baby here?
Is a baby... should we use education?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because everything is... everything is stirring I understand that sometimes there needs to be something happening so that as that storm moves, then you can see the silver lining in all of this. But this storm seems to have been turning and turning for some time. I just remember a biblical story of the gentleman at the side of the pool, and they usually said that in order for him to get to the water, there had to be movement. There had to be a stirring of the water in order for him to now approach. So, but in this case, unfortunately, that healing that is being sought after, things just seem to keep stirring and stirring and stirring and stirring. But then where do we see the path?
Where's the panacea?
Where is it?
Should things get worse before they get better?
Sometimes they have to. Like when you take antibiotics, you're sick. They normally tell you will feel worse. But then after some time, the medicine will start doing its thing.
But if you take the medicine and you're still feeling worse,
then there's a problem.
Is it medicine?
There's a problem. I'm telling you, there is. It cannot be that in the same country, on the same day, you have a senator who's about to lose her seat by the ruling political party, and then many would ask questions. Is it because she appeared to be in the presence of somebody who could pose as a threat to the incumbent in what would be a next election? That's all happening when people are preying on people on the internet, people who have cognitive inadequacies. Then you're preying on them, and then we have issues of sexual exploitation. I promise you, Jesse, this is all happening in Kenya. I'm not making it up. It's in the paper, so it must be true.
You know the way they say, the more things change, the more they remain the same. I mean, with the previous government, we saw some key government officials who are serving in the current government actually receive the brand of the powers that be. They were not aligned with the current powers, with the then powers, and then that's why, case in point, to the current government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura, there's a time he was on the receiving end due to prescribing to the thinkings of a different party. So, case in point, the same thing is happening right now with Gloria Roba. She's equally nominated, and she seems to be aligning with the thinkings of a competitor. You know, this is a party that sponsored you to Bunge, then you should align with what it says, you know. So, if you seem to be seen, or I even saw they quoted the interview she had right here on SpiceFM as one of the issues. They're taking disciplinary proceedings against her. Let's see how the cookie crumbles. Of course, she has the laxity of appealing all the way to the Supreme Court again, and that will take time. As they say, the wheels of justice grind. At times they grind slowly. So that might be a long process in terms of getting this nominated senator out of her current position.
I mean, look, it will be an interesting couple of days, and I think this forms the basis for the conversation that we're having this morning in terms of which way. That is it. I mean, obviously Kenya is not the only country on the map. And it's not the only country on the map with, issues that, lie one on top of another. This happens. The ability to then deal with those issues and retain or inject a semblance of order then is right at the doorstep of leadership. And then one would ask the question, is there a handle? Is there a handle on all of these things that are going in the direction in which they were going? They are going. And to say, this is the chart, this is the path that then we must chart. It just seems that when you think, okay, we're breathing from that one, then another one doesn't come up, but 4 more come up at the same time, So yes, we talk about you want to remain the eternal optimist and you want to say that things, but in your optimism, then do you lie to yourself and say, because I want to be an optimist, I cannot see the things that are going wrong, and then I cannot call them out because I want to be optimistic?
No. That doesn't apply. They always counter that narrative with, you should look at a glass half full, not half empty. But you can't just be a supporter. You have to be a critic and question some of these things that don't seem to be working. But what sort of even fuels a fire is when the government might label you as a dissenting voice, as a critic, and then some other things follow in terms of, litigious issues, in terms of being hunted by some of these independent institutions, as you were told a little bit earlier. And in politics, optics plays a very critical role. Perception at the end of the day might carry the day. So all this, you have to balance it. You just can't make a move while trying to implement the law, but without thinking of the ramifications, whether political, whether legal, and whatnot.
I mean, even as we look at some of these things, and one would imagine that you can tell when things are in a bit of chaos, can't you?
Yeah.
And then you would want to then apply yourself and say, look, keep the lid on some of these boiling pots. At the very least, keep things down to a dull roar or a dull simmer. But I'm saying that there are too many a thing that are bubbling, that for which we don't see something conclusive,
tangible solutions
being done. And I think that we do ourselves a disservice if we say, well, let us not criticize, or let us be optimistic, or let us see a light at the end of the tunnel. There's no tunnel right now, and I think that we can be it would be disingenuous for us to say that, we're just going to be positive and everything is going to turn out right. No. If you speak about it and make and be very clear that we can do better, we can do better. And if we are docile, then that's where we have a situation whereby any kind of leadership will basically be able to run amok. And unfortunately, that is what we see going on at the same time. At the current moment, too much is going wrong for it to be applied to with silence. It is too much.
Is it by design or by default?
Well, they say in chaos, there's some kind of organized chaos in order for some benefit to be underwater. But for how long? For how long can you continue to be in this situation where an economy is doing poorly? Even though we are told that the numbers are looking good, what's the buying or purchasing power of Kenyans, and how has that increased or decreased over the last couple of years? The very fundamental pillars of your society in education have taken a hit and continue to take a hit. We have children in school in a public system for which capitation has not been paid. We are just trying to see if a health system will then be able to work, trying to see if now a budget can come together. There's debt that takes up 70% of the country's revenue. Do you understand? 70% of the country's revenue is going towards the payment of debt. How much money do you have for development? And here we are saying Kenya is a middle income country whereby the development index is poor at best. Is it too much for the leadership to handle?
Well, it shouldn't be. That's why they're in power. They should take it in stride. Just borrowing from our proverb earlier on, the elephant doesn't complain about its tasks. You asked for that position, you should deliver. And when people are trying to hold you accountable, it shouldn't seem as us against them. They're simply doing their civic duty and all that. But you've mentioned about education, health, the issues that we're facing there. It's not limited to that.
No,
you're spoiled for a choice. When you take a look at our foreign policy and some of the obvious blunders that we've made, I think a conversation came up a little bit earlier on when this blunder started, is if we are putting, politicians in critical positions, people who do not have institutional memory of how Kenya should conduct itself diplomatically, not politically, so perhaps those who are career diplomats should be favored for such positions, even if it comes to advising the head of state on how to conduct himself, on what position to take when Kenya is perhaps viewing Morocco versus Sarawi. There's so much we need to align, and it's not just in terms of policy, it's in terms of implementation as well, because policy might read something different, but our approach to certain things raises serious questions. And just taking a look at the abductions menace, it would be enough for the government to perhaps form a commission of inquiry, be deliberate about solving the questions that are rising around abductions, making sure the buck stops with, yes, the police is an independent service, but at the end of the day, there's that concept of, is it a chain of command or command responsibility.
Yes, command responsibility.
Exactly. So we're not seeing any intentional approach apart from the corridors of justice where some of these cases are being dispensed off. It really raises questions about our intentional approach to some of the issues we're facing, be it abductions, be it our foreign policy, sorting education. Is it enough to change the CBC to CBE without releasing capitation on time? Yet this is an issue time and time again. And by the way, one of the 10 points that this MOU was signed between ODM and UDA was compensation of families affected due to extrajudicial killings.
Yes.
We haven't seen any progress on that, even when it comes to, well, what's the other 10-point issue? Well, we've seen collaborating, bringing members of the opposition into government, being more inclusive and all that. But they're more deliberate about the inclusive, the Kenya First, as compared to what exactly is being done to, sort out some of the issues time and time again. If you talk about devolution, I think that's what that one was one of the main points they signed on, enhancing devolution. Governors are equally facing the same challenges that public schools are facing in terms of release of the funds owed to them.
Yeah.
It should be released by the 15th of every month. 3 months or 2 months down the line, governors are still complaining and they have to go to commercial banks to
get overdrafts and things like this.
It's an unfortunate scenario.
It really is. And this is not, it's not some community center that you're running. It's a nation. But I mean, all hats off to community centers, even as we speak about that, because they seem to be able to organize, themselves, at least to a certain extent. Yeah. That one needs to ask the question that you budgeted something, for example, money to go to counties, money to go to education, money to go to all of these sectors, health. You have CBAs. How many CBAs do we have currently? You have CBAs with teachers. You have CBAs with doctors. You have CBAs with nurses. You have CBAs with clinical officers. You have CBAs with everybody in the country. Why get to the point where there's a CBA? Because you were not able to do that thing which you said you were going to do. Then they threaten you and say, we're going to go on strike. Then you say, hang on, let's agree to do 1, 2, 3. But even in those agreements, you're not able to keep. Now, are you not only able to keep, because you're not communicating about what's going on? Why should you have so many CBAs at the same time? Because a certain responsibility then has not been met. And these are the things that I'm talking about. Too many of them following each other, back to back to back. And then forms the question of where are we? And exactly what are we doing?
Remember that saying, too many cooks spoil the broth? Those who are critical of the government try to place this issue, the issues that the government is facing, on too many centers of command. At the end of the day, some were saying that the president is a doctor, know, and he applies the I know it all, to certain issues. But other groups were actually questioning why there's so many advices, especially attached to State House, and some of these advices might bring on duplication of roles, because they're advisors at the Ministry of Treasury who might be advising on Kenya's economic outlook, the decisions we have to take in order to improve the GDP ratio and whatnot. But if there are too many centers of command, advisors at State House, yet more advisors at the Cabinet Secretary level, who advises who? At the end of the day, which advice will the president listen if he listens?
That's the rider, isn't it? The question about whether or not he actually does listen. And we're in a really precarious situation, whether no matter which way you want to color it, that is the position in which the country is today, that you cannot have so many things going wrong at the same time, and that it would look as though you have institutions that have been put in place to manage some of these situations, and that those issues are not being managed. The responsibility is set. It is clear whose responsibility it is. It is clear who then must hold a position of accountability. And from where we sit and from the different wheels that are all turning at the same time, there needs to be intervention. There needs to be something done. And the problem is that the time that we have really doesn't wait for anybody. Time waits for no man. And the attention seems to be focused on who will run in the next election, whereby the pot that you have on the fire essentially is burning. You know, you're thinking about the guests that are coming in the door, who's going to feed them, or where you're going to get food for tomorrow. Meanwhile, the ones who are already seated and are waiting for that food to come out of the kitchen, that food is burning. And so who is tending to that? And by the time it burns, you're late.
Are we more reactive than proactive when it comes to sorting out these issues? Because I feel once things hit the fan, that's when the government will come in, showing government efficiency and trying to, make sure that it happened, but this is what we're doing about it. Yet we should be in a space where Kenya, as a Silicon Savannah and whatnot for the region, we should be in a position to prevent. Prevention is better than cure. See it coming. We have policies in place and implement these policies in order to avert a certain crisis. We should be less reactionary and more proactive. Yeah.
Indeed. We were going to have a guest this hour. Professor Omenya was to join us, but it seems at this point he may not be doing just that. The conversations must continue. We at Situation Room also at this point to attend to certain matters arising at this point. We end the show at this point today. It's something we've never done before, but we ended at this point today, and then we'll join you again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock to continue having these discussions that matter. For audiences who continue to be with us on live streams of Facebook, on YouTube and on X, we keep the conversations going, as well as our audience on KTN. It's a very good morning to you from Jesse and Ndu. Good morning at 9:30.
Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start.
Save money on your rising electricity bill with StarTimes Solar Home Solution. We offer a complete home and